podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Oh, hi, Marks.
And
How's it going, guys?
we are here to cover everything from AEW and WWE for the last week. We will also have a really awesome Call It in the Ring segment at the end where we are bringing on Adam's friend George Gatton, who is a former, are we ever former wrestlers? But he's a former independent wrestler who has some really interesting stories. So stick around for our Call It in the Ring segment. It was really awesome recording that today. So
yeah, it was I knew a lot about his story, his journey in professional wrestling, but even I learned a lot that I wasn't necessarily privy to, and there's a lot more that I'm sure that he could tell us. That he has lived a very at least in terms of indie wrestling, he's lived in a short amount of time a long and storied indie life.
yeah, for sure. A lot of really crazy things that I never thought would be part of that conversation that ended up being part of that conversation. So, if you guys are interested in wrestling interviews and talking to wrestlers and listening to what they have to say and kind of quote unquote shoot interviews, but not really shooting, because he wasn't really taking shots at anybody. He just he told stories and it was cool. I think y'all are going to be in for a real treat at the end of the show there with that one, and we can't wait to do it some more. So
Yeah, I feel like we had a really good time doing that, and we would like to do that more. But I feel like this interview, you should definitely stick around for it because it sets the precedent that we want to set. When we have a guest on, we don't really want to take shots at anybody. We don't want to be, one of those podcasts that is a home for anybody with a grievance. We want to talk about the cool crap about wrestling.
yeah,
We want to talk about our good experience. I mean, we'll talk about our bad experiences too, but overall, we want to be uplifting and a positive force in the space. So, I feel like this really set a really great tone right along those lines.
yeah, it was really fun. I had a blast with it. So with that said, we can roll right into our Raw review for the day. Our lockup segment here. All right, guys, we are still well-fed wrestling fans, but everybody has a misstep sometimes, and we're going to talk about that a little bit this week. Not negatively, because everybody has a misstep sometimes. It's not abnormal. But I think this week WWE had a little bit of a misstep. Raw and SmackDown both, as a collective, were not as good quality as I have been, used to for these last few weeks, especially since the Netflix debut. They've really kind of, upped their game and what's going on. But this, the wrestling's not bad. It's just, I don't know, maybe pacing or timing or something, but we'll get to that. There are also positive things, and there will be plenty of positive things I talk about here. So, starting with Raw, we kicked off with a video package, about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Then we go into a Sami Zayn promo, and he's out there talking about how there's no forgiveness after the latest pile driver because it threatened to end the career of Sami Zayn, and he's not really cleared for any kind of competition, but he wants a match with Kevin Owens. He really is, betrayed and hurt and all the other things that you go through when your best friend package pile drivers you. So
come on, this wasn't even the first time it happened.
Of course not. But Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn is a story that's going to continue until both of them retire. So,
for sure.
But I like it every time, so I'm not upset about it. But so he gets interrupted by Adam Pearce.
Forever.
Yeah, he gets interrupted by Adam Pearce, and Pearce is like, "Hey man, you're barely cleared, if at all. You're really hurt. Your career could be over. We're not doing this." As Adam Pearce likes to do, he just comes out and says no because he's kind of like a dour dad. but then, Sammy's like, look, you're going to give me what I want. I'm going to get what I want one way or the other. So you might as well give me what I want, or, it could get worse. And so they kind of back and forth on this issue about, yes, no, we're going to have this match. And they're getting really heated. And Adam Pearce is finally like, you know what? Okay, if you want this so bad, we're not going to sanction it. If you want all this, if you want to go in, consequences be damned, knowing that we can't help you, knowing that nothing will stop it if Kevin Owens wants to do that to you 10 times over. If that's really what you want, and, Sami Zayn's like, yes, that's what I want. Let's, give me my match. And so Adam Pearce says, okay, you know what? You got it. Unsanctioned match, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber.
So what are they doing at WrestleMania then? If they're already going to the unsanctioned match, what do they have planned for Mania?
Man,
holy cow.
With all the things that happened this week, I don't know what's going on with Mania. And I feel like it's really weird to be almost at March now. We're like 5 days removed or 6 days removed from March, which is only a month left to go for WrestleMania, and a month and a half. And it's not really set in stone other than Jay and Gunther and Charlotte and Tiffany. Nothing else is set in stone. Everything has been kind of going to, I feel like we're going to get a lot of clarity on the situation in the Elimination Chamber, because of course we will. But there are other outside forces that we'll talk about during the SmackDown review that are kind of making things not sure. It's making it where like you can't really predict what's going to happen, because certain outside forces could literally just decide to swing their dick around and change everything. So everything is kind of on this unsure footing as far as going into what the WrestleMania card is going to be, aside from SmackDown Women's title match, World Heavyweight Championship match. We know what those are going to be. Unless they add people to those and modify them in some way, that's what we're getting. And we're getting build-ups to most of those as we head into Elimination Chamber, because, we'll have, like Nia Jax is trying to get the title off Tiffany before her match with Charlotte, so that Nia gets the match with Charlotte. So we've got a tag team match at Elimination Chamber that involves Trish Stratus, and then we're going to have Owens and Zayn unsanctioned, and then we're going to have our Elimination Chambers to kind of decide who's going after the Raw Women's title and Cody. So there'll be more clarity after Elimination Chamber, but there's still like this air of uncertainty that's occurring here. But I'm not upset about it. I kind of like not knowing from January 1st, what's going to happen at WrestleMania. Yeah. I do kind of like that. I like things being kind of up in the air and not being so predictable.
Yeah. The unpredictability is great up to a point. I mean, we're getting close to the line, and like you said, Elimination Chamber will force a lot of clarity onto the situation. We'll have at least 2 more matches set in stone by then, more or less, unless they decide to swerve something in the middle. But add somebody, make it triple threat, blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, we're getting close to that line. Like, it's like, I'd like to know a little bit more.
Yeah. So then we go to commercial. We come back, and we kind of set this up last week, but we've got AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio. And, Dom's been telling the Judgment Day he's going to handle this guy. But the Judgment Day is also like, I guess Liv and Dom want a new member of the Judgment Day. They've been talking about adding another member. And Finn...
Like a specific one, or they're...
I think they have somebody in mind. I think they have somebody in mind. On the internet, the general internet wrestling community is saying that, it might be AJ Styles. I don't know why they're saying that. I think maybe just because he's been, doing ring work with Dominic, maybe. But I don't know. But Finn doesn't seem to be for it. Like, so we may be getting a new Judgment Day member at the expense of Finn Balor, who may then again turn face, and please, dear God, give us back Balor Club with the rainbow logo and everything. I'll take it.
Give me the demon.
Yeah. Demon Finn as a face.
As long as he doesn't fall and lose to Roman Reigns in embarrassing fashion that they never bring up again.
Yeah.
Again.
Right.
Like,
so,
God, that was the worst.
I will say Dom continues to have nuclear level heat.
Good.
At this point, it's just fun to boo the guy. It's fun to boo so loudly that it's hard for him to talk on a microphone that's louder than everybody in the building, but the building is literally louder than his microphone. This guy who is just the worst kind of scumbag, like a dude I don't like. I don't feel like I could hang out with Dominic Mysterio, but that's his character, and that's how I'm supposed to feel about Dominic Mysterio, and he's doing it so good. I don't feel like he has his dad's wrestling skill, but he definitely
Who does?
He definitely is. I mean, yeah, that's a really hard shadow to crawl out from under. But as far as like, I think his main, in his main inspiration is from Uncle Eddie, and he's working Uncle Eddie like Uncle Eddie would. He's okay. He's not as good as Eddie was in the ring either, but
again,
he's improving. So this match with AJ Styles was surprisingly solid for a Dominic Mysterio match. Like, they really had a good match. Despite his attempts to capitalize on outside interference from Carlito, AJ Styles wins with a Styles clash. It was really solid. I mean, that's all there was to it. But then here's where it kind of gets interesting, because there's a lot of potential matchups that I want for Braun Breaker. And sometimes you don't know you want one until they show it to you. You know, like I didn't think Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker until they had that face off, and I was like, ooh, now I want that. And I still want it WWE.
Yeah.
But here, Breaker comes into the ring. He kind of looks like he's going to attack AJ Styles, and then he spears Dominic into nothing, just like he did to Speed. But he spears the hell out of Dominic, but then he stands straight up from that spear and goes face to face with AJ. And now I want AJ Styles and Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. I want it now. Please, Elimination Chamber still has like one more match that we need. So let's go ahead and make that it. I think they might have said that that's happening next week on Raw. I'm not sure, but Elimination Chamber is like this next Saturday. So, maybe this could happen there, and it would be a worthy PLE match, for Elimination Chamber. But I don't know how they're going to work it, because they've already kind of booted the women's title match between Rhea and Io off of Elimination Chamber, and it's going to be on Raw next week after Elimination Chamber. Or maybe it's this week, tomorrow, as we're recording this. But they're not having it on Elimination Chamber. So maybe this will also not be on Elimination Chamber. We'll see kind of how they're going with that. But yeah, I didn't know I wanted AJ Styles and Braun Breaker until I saw them face to face with one another, and now I really do. I'm just gonna say
AJ does have the habit of bringing out the best in his opponents. I mean, there was a while there that he seemed to kind of coast, but when he is on, man. And, he really likes working with those young kids and make them look really, really good, too. So I have a feeling that Braun's going to come out, even if he doesn't come out with the belt, he's going to come out smelling like a rose.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Dominic Mysterio is really improving in the ring. AJ Styles is he's wrestling like he's got something to prove after that last injury. And he may be coming up on like time for him. He might be, retiring soon. So I could see why he would be, wrestling like it's the end, or, just that he's proving something to everybody on his way out, I guess. I will say this, because the quality of this match was fantastic. And I feel like Pat McAfee in his commentary, like, he likes to tell stories during matches and stuff that have nothing to do with the match. And I don't feel like Pat McAfee adds anything. I would rather Michael Cole ride that disc solo than have a foil if it has to be McAfee. Yeah, that might be rough, but I miss Corey Graves. And I'm not going to be apologetic about that. I miss him a lot. I understand why he's angry with what they did with him because of McAfee coming to Raw. Because I'm angry about it too. Graves and Cole were putting in some phenomenal commentator team work before the Raw Netflix debut. And the fact that they didn't think that that was good enough to be on Netflix and they had to bring back Pat McAfee, who objectively, in my view, and I also have commiserated with people online and know that this isn't just my opinion, but he is objectively disliked by the wrestling community.
Well, that's the funny thing is that I don't see everything, but like the general consensus that I saw was that Graves isn't exactly Mr. Popular either. Like which I don't understand. Like maybe it's something that happened since I stopped watching WWE, but like I always kind of enjoyed Graves' commentary. I
can tell you why it is. Okay, so I'm not going to get too deep into this because I don't know details. I only know like the framework of it, because this is one of the things that I like to separate from wrestling. But when he came to WWE, he was married and he has children, I guess, with that first marriage. And I guess the word on the internet, and I'm allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly here because I want to make sure we protect ourselves legally. I don't want to get sued for slander, and I'm not trying to slander anyone. Allegedly, his relationship with Carmella began before his relationship with his wife ended. That is what is alleged. Now, that is literally the thing that make people not like him. That's literally what people are kind of down on him about. If there is other things, please enlighten me. I don't know them. This is the only like kind of bad thing I've heard about him, and I put it away in my mind because that part of his life is none of my business. My business with him is how good he is on the commentator's desk, and he's good. He's very good.
Yeah, I think he's great. Like he's a great heel color commentator.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's no like, prime Bobby Heenan. He's no Paul Heyman. He's no Jesse Ventura necessarily, but he's really good at what he does. I figure.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're always going to win points with me if you constantly drop Mean Girls references. So, I mean,
that's true. Yeah. He does pull some references that I'm like, whoa.
yeah.
Corey Graves likes some of the same shit I like.
Yeah. That's why I never really got like, that's why, what was his name? Shoot. The teacher guy, Matt Stryker. That's why he was over with me. It was like, oh yeah, he's making all these like comic book references and stuff. I get what he's talking about. Okay, he's trying to expand the vocabulary of his audience. That's great. That's cool. I like that. Like, yeah. I understand that a lot of people thought that he was a bit condescending or pretentious. And I do get that he wasn't like really like a great dude, but like as far as his work was concerned, I never really had a problem with him when so many other people seem to.
Yeah. I think a lot of problem with him was like, okay, so like I will not denigrate the wrestling fan base. There are some seriously like Mensa level genius people amongst the wrestling fan base. Okay.
Sure.
But we're a wide gamut of people too. We're a very large spectrum of people. So there are absolutely some dumbasses on the wrestling train. Okay. And the problem with people like Matt Stryker and why people don't like him just kind of off the hop is because very often among certain communities of people, someone with a large vocabulary is seen as pretentious just because they have a large vocabulary. It may not be how they acted. It's just the fact that they're using words that these people don't understand that contain more than 3 syllables.
Yeah, it highlights and lampshades those people's own insecurities about their intellect.
Yes, it does. And so, I mean, I always kind of saw it that way. And that maybe that's just my personal experience with people on the internet when they talk badly about Matt Stryker. I'm usually like, I don't know if this guy, understands anything over 2 syllables. So, but I'm also not here to give them an IQ test. I'm just here to talk about wrestling. And sometimes it's like, man, I don't think you understand the point, or maybe it's still real to you because you just don't get it, or you haven't smartened yourself up, or maybe you're willingly this way, or maybe you're like me and you like to suspend your disbelief. And so while you're watching wrestling, it is real. because I like to do that. I like to
Still
suspend my
real to me, damn it.
I like to suspend, like, I know when I turn the program off, wrestling's not real, these are regular people. But when the program is on, I am into it like it is real. When Sami Zayn gets package pile driven, I'm like, oh God, his career is over. And then the show's over, and I'm like, okay, I'll see Sami Zayn next week. But my wrestling fan self is like, oh, his career is over. Fuck, like, how are we gonna resolve this now? This is a great storyline, But so, not to dwell too negative on the negative too long with the Pat McAfee thing about commentary. I'll go into a positive now. And the positive is a women's intercontinental title #1 contender match between Dakota Kai and Ivy Nile. And I'm a big fan of both of these ladies for the most part. Kai, I'm still kind of on the fence about because she is getting a nice little push, but I still have yet to be just completely wowed by her. Like all the other women that I'm fans of, I have wowed me at some point. And Kai doesn't seem like she's wowed me yet. I mean, or she hasn't,
I've seen a lot of Kai's work in NXT. I was very familiar with her. I always liked her, but yeah, like the best word that I could use to describe her is solid.
Yeah.
Not like, and I don't mean to sound like an arrogant jerk or whatever, but like not necessarily exceptional or standout, but definitely absolutely solid. She's a good hand.
Yeah, okay, there you go. See,
she's a good hand, and she's got a good look.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would give her more mic time.
I think that's true with all the women, though. I don't think any of them get enough.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I feel like there's probably, to get over that hump, they're going to need to give her more stick time because, I mean, and that's, the way with a lot, like you said, a lot of the women, because she's with Damage Control, and what is she doing? She's just kind of there. She's the only non-Japanese one. So even when like they're all speaking Japanese, she's like not part of it.
Yeah.
She needs to be given the opportunity to show her character. And that's not her fault that she's not being given those opportunities. That's a booking mistake or oversight or whatever whatever you want to call it. But like, you never know who's going to be the next Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch got over to the degree that she did because they started giving her the mic.
Yeah.
You never know who's going to, you give that opportunity to whoever you can afford it to give it to. Because you never know when you're going to, fall ass over tea kettle into that situation.
Yeah. I feel like she could get over.
Give the ladies the mic more.
Yeah, I feel like she could get over that way. But right now it's because of that I kind of think she's fallen into a trap that a lot of like Divas era wrestlers on the ladies division did. And that's like, she's got a good look and she's a solid wrestler, but she's just kind of a generic in there, and it's not in the ring. It's just, we don't know enough about her character. Even with the Damage Control history, we're just not like, who is Dakota Kai now? Like, and then what I think is like WWE's getting, like, they're giving her this nice little push, and they haven't, accounted for like, eventually we're going to get, more than a few weeks past her return. And that stuff's going to start to wear, the cheers and stuff are going to start to wear off because we'll talk about this a little bit more as we talk about the match, but what's she doing? So anyway, she's got a match with Ivy Nile for the #1 contendership to Lyra Valkyria's title, which is cool. Either one of these versus her would be a good match. The problem here is that the crowd is kind of waning on the Dakota Kai return. So her response was a little bit mediocre, and Ivy Nile just being a female pit bull for American Alpha is also not really doing it for her. I like Ivy Nile. I think she's also a really solid hand with a really great look, and she's a little tiny China, super powerful and all that. But they're not. She's just part of whatever's happening with American Made or American Alpha or whatever they're called now, and it's just not. It's not working for her. Like, she needs to either take a leadership role in the group or just be given more time by herself away from the group. Like, She can still be part of it. She fits, as a legitimate, contender for things. Like, she fits in their sphere. But she needs to be given more time on her own, the same way Dakota Kai does. But the match was really good. A little bit short for my liking. Not as short as normal, though. It was closer to 7 to 10. For a singles, that's pretty good on a Monday night, But we've got Dakota Kai hitting her GTK, I think is what it's called. Yeah. She hit her GTK, and she beat Niall. And it's kind of weird because they might put the title on her. Because, last week, that very champion that Dakota Kai is now number one contender to lost to Bayley in an Elimination Chamber match. We talked about that, like, why the hell did they do that? So Lyra's going into this match with an L, and Dakota's coming off a win against Ivy Nile, who is a contender in this division. So we'll see kind of how we do this. They obviously want to give Dakota Kai this push. She was getting a really good response at the IC title tournament earlier this year. So maybe they're trying to make up for her not winning it at that point when the crowd kind of wanted her to win. But they weren't upset that Lyra won. It was kind of a, we want them both type thing.
Yeah. They were happy with whomever. Yeah. Yeah.
So then we go to the Jey Uso shot, which is, they go up through the crowd and they go into the tunnel and they in the crowd tunnel and they go to the outside of the arena. And that's usually where Jay is standing with all his fans as he's about to get introduced into the arena. And it's Gunther. And there's still all the people standing there like Jay would be there. And they're like yeeting at Gunther and stuff. Like they're heckling him a little bit, but the camera comes up this is brilliant, man. I am really starting to love Gunther more and more every day. So he goes, I just wanted to see what this was like. It stinks out there. And then he starts like walking through the thing and they start introducing him and play his music like they would with Jey Uso. And he gets out in the crowd and he's got the mic and he's like, this is no wonder Jey Uso likes being out here. You people are dogs just like him. It smells awful. This is terrible. I hate this. And then Jey Uso shows up and they go into a brawl. And Gunther, it was basic brawl. But like the whole thing, Gunther like coming down through the crowd and eating and everything. Like he was doing yeets and stuff and like, mocking Jey Uso. And he kind of gave McAfee the business a little bit, about being a huge Jey Uso fan, because that's kind of what he's been doing, and it's kind of funny because McAfee acts like he's terrified of Gunther, and he should be, because that man could literally rip your head off. But it was fun. But then the brawl happened, and it was also fun. It's going to be a good match, man. They're building it great. The things they're antagonizing the shit out of each other. It's just it's the best kind of WrestleMania feud where these guys just legitimately are like complete polar opposites and they're just doing their thing to each other. Then we had a return of Penta and Pete Dunne. So Penta, Pete Dunne 2. Another solid match, man. Another really great Tekker versus really great Luchador. It was a really good match. Penta wins again, though. So, they're obviously giving Penta the thing. Now, Kaiser did come out and kind of distract Pete Dunne. I don't think he did it. I don't think he came out to distract Pete Dunne. He came out to mess with Penta, because that's kind of, I think, where they're going is with Kaiser and Penta. But he kind of ended up distracting Pete Dunne, and that's what got Penta the win. And Penta capitalized on it, But at one point in this match, Penta hit Dunne so hard in the jaw it echoed.
Yeesh.
It was awesome. It was awesome, dude. It's kind of weird. This might be a three-way thing, though, because Dunne doesn't seem to like Kaiser or want him involved in any of this stuff either. So it might be a three-way thing between Dunne, Penta, and Kaiser. I'm down for it. They're having stellar matches. I'd like to see Dunne and Kaiser wrestle one now and kind of keep this going as a triangle. Then Elimination Chamber qualifying match for the last spot in the Elimination Chamber for the ladies. We've got Roxanne Perez of NXT versus Raquel Rodriguez. And the match was okay, but all the title holders got involved in this. Like, everybody who's involved in the Elimination Chamber basically kind of got involved in this a little bit. And Liv and everybody. But through all the mess, Roxanne Perez gets the win over Raquel Rodriguez. They're really putting like some muscle behind Roxanne Perez. She was the Iron Woman in the Rumble. Now she's going to be in the Elimination Chamber, and she's still technically on NXT. Yeah. She's got to be called up soon.
They've earmarked her since like the day she stepped foot in NXT. Like, I think she got signed when she was like 19 or something like that. You know, she was the first Ring of Honor World Women's Champion. She's highly touted. Everybody seems to adore her backstage too. Like, she is going places.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely going places. She's going to be, I think she's being earmarked right now before our very eyes to be the foundation of the women's division within the next 2 or 3 years.
I think so too, probably. And it's great.
In that time, I feel like by that time, the entire women's division will be built solely around her. And man, she's young. You can, as long as she wants to do it, like, she will be, she'll be made. She'll be a made woman.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. She's great, man. I think she's good. So we'll see how they work her actual call up. But yeah, right now she's still in NXT. So, let's go ahead and call her up, guys. Y'all are putting her in all the pay-per-views and stuff. Let's go ahead and do this 2 in a row, So then we had a New Day promo, and if anybody has more heat than Dom Mysterio, it's the New Day. Man. So now they're so they last week when they closed out the show, like after the show, I guess, went off the air, or maybe at the very, very end, New Day attacked Rey Mysterio after his match with Logan Paul. And they came out and they're blaming Mysterio for getting attacked, basically, even though they did it.
Victim blaming's not cool, guys.
But inevitably, of course, they learned that you don't FAFO with Mexicanos, and the whole LWO shows up, Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde, and they get into a brawl, and they make the New Day scurry off. So I think we're getting a tag match between those guys. I think this week. But yeah, good brawl. New Day's got some nuclear heat. I mean, them and Dom are like neck and neck. I think they might be having a competition to see who can get the crowd to be louder in their hate. But it's pretty even because everyone hates them both to a point where they don't want to hear them talk. And it's wrestling fan hate. It's not real hate. So it's just nuclear levels of heat. It's amazing. I've never seen this many people have that level of heat at one time.
Can you imagine if that level persists until November, a Survivor Series team with all 3 of those guys on it?
Oh, man. Whew. I would love that.
That's your main event.
Yeah.
Right there. It's going to get the biggest reaction of any other team, that's for sure.
Right. And then we got our main event for the night. And it is Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins to get into the Elimination Chamber. I'm going to be 100% transparent here and say that I, along with probably everyone else, did not and do not expect Finn Balor to win this match. Not a chance in hell. Not even a snowball's chance if you put a little hat on it. No chance in hell this man is getting in. Okay, I'm sorry. I love you, Finn. I do.
Not at this stage of his career.
But not happening right now.
You asked me 5 years ago, a little more even. Now, no.
So these guys had a really nice hard-hitting main event. Back and forth battle of wills, basically. Rollins put him in a sharpshooter at one point, which would have totally popped you because I know you love the sharpshooter, and I popped too.
Absolutely.
Rollins kicked out of a coup de grace. Ooh, so much for protecting that move. But it was a good. I mean, it was a nice, good back and forth, but Rollins hits that stomp and it's over. So Rollins defeats Balor. He's going. That was pretty much
So
it.
that
There,
makes it,
I'm trying to see there. I don't think there was an after.
that makes it what? Rollins, McIntyre,
Mhm. Rollins, McIntyre, Punk. It's all six now. Priest, John Cena, and Jacob Fatu. No, it wasn't Jacob Fatu.
Who's this six?
Rollins and McIntyre, Punk. Oh, Logan freaking Paul. That's why we don't remember who the six guys.
Yeah,
don't even want to be there. So yeah, it's Logan Paul. But yeah, that's our six guys. And we got our six women. It's Bianca and Naomi, Liv, Roxanne Perez, who are the other two? There's two more. I know. It'll come to me. I'm not going to spend too much time worried about it. But yeah, we've got all six for both matches now, and they're both stacked up. They're both really good. Alexa Bliss is in the Elimination Chamber, and they did a big video package with her on SmackDown. We'll talk about hot stuff. She's going to be a change in how things work in SmackDown.
Bailey.
Oh yeah, Bailey and Alexa Bliss were the other two. Okay, so yeah, that's our six for the women. So it's stacked up on both sides. It's gnarly stacked up. Like I can't tell you who's going to win either one of those matches. And I love that. I love that. I love it a lot. I love not knowing. So with that said, we'll get into our shine.
All right, here we are at our shine. AEW Dynamite, February 19th, 2025. My 40th birthday. And I couldn't think of much better of a birthday present for that random Wednesday in freaking February in upstate New York than a great episode of Dynamite. And that's exactly what we got. They were from the Arizona Financial Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. Another really cool venue. Like, it was a theater. So like the stage, the ramp led to the ring. It was a really short ramp, led right to the ring from like an actual like theater stage.
Yeah, it was cool.
And then everything was in the round. All the seating was in the round. It was freaking great. Well, it wasn't in the round. In the round implies that it goes around the majority of the area, but it was all like semicircle. It was great. But yeah, it looked great. The crowd was hot.
Yeah,
they loved this. Yeah, and I think they were especially hot because they announced on this show that they'd be coming back to Phoenix for Double or Nothing in May. So I think that if they didn't already have the impetus to be loud and appreciative, they sure were given it. Show starts out really hot, like super hot. One of the best segments of the year so far, with MJF going face to face with Hangman Adam Page in what may well become AEW's kind of signature, like, non-wrestling segment. Is just like the two guys with microphones just kind of dueling. Like, you don't see that a lot in AEW. They save it for really, really heated rivalries generally with good talkers. And like, as opposed to WWE, who do it like pretty much like twice or 3 or 4 times a week, like in one form or another. In AEW, when they reserve a segment for it and they tell you about it ahead of time, like they did this week, is that they've got something cooking. And boy, did they ever. Like, they went in on each other. They brought up their history about how MJF and Hangman and Page were in one of the very first matches in AEW history for the Casino Battle Royal, the one that Hangman earned his place in the match for the first ever AEW World Championship decider against Chris Jericho. MJF says he turned around and said, but who then beat you for the Dynamite Diamond Ring and never looked back? Like, it's, so they have the history and everything. He runs down his accomplishments, that he's amassed over the last 5 years. And then Hangman gets on the stick. He's like, why do you act like I don't know who you are and what you've done? Like, do you think I don't watch the show? Like, saying, once again, being the voice of the audience. But like, he's like, well, what I do notice though is that you've got all those accomplishments, you've got all those credentials, and yet you don't seem happy. Like, is it because there's still something that MJF can't win? Is it from? Is it perhaps the respect of the crowd? And then MJF, he gets real hot at that. He's like, "Oh, shut your mouth!" And then he like calms back, and brings it back, and then uh, he goes on to rant about the crowd and how and he makes a decent point. Like he runs down all the stuff that Adam Page has done in the last year and a half, given his involvement with Swerve Strickland, and he questions the audience's devotion to him despite all the stuff that he's done. And then he gives him, but like Page doesn't like care about any of that. It's somebody on Blue Sky mentioned and noticed, rightfully so, that he didn't care about any of that stuff because, first of all, Hangman knows it's true, and secondly, because somebody as self-loathing as Hangman has not only knows it's true, but says much to himself and been far harder on himself than anybody else has ever been. So that's not going to rankle him. What affected him was when MJF brought up Christopher Daniels, because Heyman does feel guilty about what he did to Christopher Daniels. He does know he took it too far, and so I mean that this goes unsaid, clearly, but that's the level of acting that we're getting from Hangman Page here. Is like, we know this without him having to say it.
Yeah.
But he goes in and he rips MJF a new one over calling Fallen Angel a hack and a jobber and all this other stuff. And he's like, if he's 10 times the man you are, and he's had a career that any of us would be envious of. If there's a wrestling organization on earth that meant anything, he was at one point, even if it was for one night, he was a part of it. And he ended his career going out fighting with his head held high. If your career ended tonight, MJF, what would they say about you? Would they say you're a credit to the sport, a credit to this world, or that he was an opportunistic scumbag who took what he wanted and who was a selfish coward, taking every shortcut he could? It's like, if you want to know, he didn't accept the fans' adulation because, again, he can't accept himself right now, even. So he's certainly not going to accept other people telling him he's okay when he knows he's not, even if he can't admit it publicly. But he did say, if you want to know why, so I don't pretend to speak for them, but if I had to guess, it's that I've put my heart on my sleeve and I've never lied to them. I've lied 100 times in the last 5 years, but never to them. And it's like, I put it all out on the table and they've been there for the ride with me. Whereas you are, a coward that's lied and cheated and stolen for 5 years. And MJF says, that old line, it's like, it's written in the history books that I won, not how I won. That's all that matters is what it says, not, the details of it. But I'm better than you in every aspect, and they still cheer you. What do you have that I don't? And all Page says is, I'm real. Which is true, and it's enough.
Yeah.
It's absolutely enough. So MJF you can tell it just burns him up inside that he knows Hangman's right. But he says, you want to be the main character? Fine. I got no problem being the bad guy. So they both start to take off their jackets and stuff like they're gonna fight, but they're not supposed to fight. That was like the whole crux of this having this promo time was under the expectation that it wouldn't get physical, which is dumb because it's pro wrestling. Come on, Tony, you know better than this. So all the security comes out, and then MJF looks like he's gonna back off, and then he does the thing. He does the thing. He hauls back and pulls an Ace Borger and spits a huge honking loogie right at Hangman. Technically, still not touching Hangman. Importantly, he was technically obeying the edict from Tony Khan to not get physical. At that point, though, Hangman, justifiably, can no longer sit by and idly and obey said edict. So he goes after him, and it's just a whole mess. And then eventually Christopher Daniels comes out and he gets in Hangman's face and he's like, he basically says, "I know why you're doing this, and I'm for you." He's implying that yes, this is the path you need to go on to reclaim yourself and redeem yourself. Great stuff. Fantastic opener. It's people who say there can't be nuance in pro wrestling, they need to look at this segment and probably have the history leading up to it to fully understand it. But I mean, this is full of stuff that's both said and unsaid, and it's really layered, and I love that kind of stuff. It really rewards the fans who have been there and who have paid attention. Yeah. Backstage, Renee is with the United Kingdom, and Roddy is gonna shout "Orange Cassidy." He's like, "Oh, it seems like we're destined to do this forever."
I'm okay with it.
I'm good. Yeah, me too. It's like I'm gonna break your back and go on to face Takeshita for the international title. They question Kyle O'Reilly, polyamorous himbo that he is, and they ask him, "Is like, whoa, this is kind of interesting." He's like, "You've got Roddy in one corner and Orange Cassidy, your conglomeration fellow, in the other corner." Is like, is it tough deciding between the two? Is like, yeah, not really. I love both of these guys. Just being cool. Cool Kyle is cool. Uh, that would play in later to their match, but we'll get there in a sec. The first match was the Ops, who now have a theme for their trio, which means they're getting pushed, versus the Patriarchy, Kip Sabian, Nick Wayne, and Christian Cage. Christian Cage does not want to be in this match and takes every opportunity to avoid Samoa Joe if possible. Meanwhile, they all take turns just like doing great, just like little comedy bits, like doing a drop down, go over, and Samoa Joe just trips him. Like he just slowly puts his foot out and just trips Nick Wayne and falls flat on his face. And he just points at him, laughs at him, ha ha, and then he gives him a senton. Like just great stuff there. It's like when you're that tough, you can get away with like, look at this schmuck. Like it great stuff. Like the match wasn't like anything, groundbreaking. It was entertaining. Once again, Wayne's World is caught in midair by Hook in the Red Rum. Christian Cage has the opportunity to break it up. He has been in the Red Rum for a significant amount of time. I don't think too many people have been in that Red Rum for as long as Nick held out there. So I think that should be commended and brought up on commentary. It wasn't, but it should be. But that's more in the service of showing that Christian Cage could have gotten in there, but he was too scared of Samoa Joe, who was also in the ring, daring him to get in and try. That he just bailed, and Nick taps. Good stuff. Like, just it's another like stepping stone. I imagine that this gets resolved at the pay per view, whether it's on the main card or on the 0 hour. Honestly, like I'm getting kind of tired of Samoa Joe just kind of wasting his time with Christian Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just beat him up, be done with it, and then chase those trios belts. Because, not gonna lie, this is a weird trio, but I like this weird trio.
Yeah.
Street Fight, Powerhouse Hobbs versus Chris Jericho, or not Chris Jericho, Big Bill rather.
Oh man,
This was great.
It was, like, wasn't it?
First of all, they did the thing where they came out in street clothes. Anytime you come out in street clothes for a street fight, I know you're taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It seems counterintuitive, but it's a street fight. You wear your jeans, you know. and if you do that, then I know that you're taking it seriously as a presentation, as opposed to, oh, okay, this is just the match that I'm booked for. You know, these two just went up and down all around. They had a plumber's wrench in there that Big Bill just like was destroying the ringside area. Like, it was great. Like, I, in the interest of keeping it short, because our interview is pretty long, there was the end comes in, it's crazy. There was a barbed wire table that was set up, and Hobbs spine busters him off, Big Bill off of the stage through the tables that are on the ground, and they play it like he can't get up to answer a 10 count because he's all
tangled
up in the wire, up in the barbed wire.
Yeah.
I didn't really. The one nitpick I would have with that is that that's not really a knockout. They said the only way that you could win was it false count anywhere, but it was pin, submission, or knockout. Not answering to a 10 count because you're trapped is not the same thing as not answering a 10 count because you got knocked loopy. It's not the same. Like, it's a win, and it's a good win. It's a good win. And I'm not in favor of protecting Big Bill. But I have trouble accepting this as a knockout finish because he wasn't knocked out. I hope that is an aspect that is deliberate and then played upon for a future rematch.
I'm pretty sure
knock
it will
me
be
out. I got tied up in the barbed wire. You didn't. This is not over.
No, I hope it's not
what they do, because I'll take more of that. That I will definitely take more of that big meaty men slapping meat.
Dude, they go hard too, like wrenches, bricks. Like, these guys are getting like, it was awesome, man. It was awesome in the best way.
Yeah. Toni Storm comes out and she cuts an incredible promo because of course she does. She she uses a lot of innuendo.
A lot.
She uses a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't repeat, but I love her for it anyway. But she ends it. The ending of this promo is probably going to wind up being iconic, not just for the words that I was saying, but because of how it was shot. Because it was shot from above. In the middle of the sentence, it goes from showing her just head on in the spotlight to the overhead camera in the spotlight, and she goes, "For God is a woman, and her name is timeless," and just, oh my God, like chills up and down my spine. Toni Storm is just a very, very special talent.
Yeah.
and she's just unbelievable, like unbelievable. I can't believe that we're halfway through this show, and the best things about it have been the promos.
Yeah.
Like, this is the wrestling company in comparison to WWE, so called, and they're still like kicking down the door and making you watch these promos because they're that good.
Yeah.
Like, they're just incredible. Um Renee's backstage with Willow Nightingale. Always great to see Willow. I hate that she got the crap kicked out of her though, because I love Willow. She wasn't happy with John Moxley and Marina Shafir attacking her. She definitely made a point to say, your husband,
Yeah.
which was like, and Renee looked really uncomfortable, which good, good. You should feel uncomfortable. I love Renee. I do. I don't think there's a wrestling fan on God's green that doesn't love Renee Paquette. She's inherently likable.
Yeah.
But while your husband's actions are his own, you continue to stay with him despite these actions. And the longer you do, the more your uh, ability to think rationally becomes suspect, Renee. I'm sorry. This is why I'm all for more Lexi Nair having time and less Renee until this Death Riders thing is resolved. Because I don't want Renee to get caught in this stuff and like be forced to turn heel if it goes too far. Like, I want her to not be involved in this stuff. If it's an interview segment that involves the Death Riders or anybody involved in the Death Riders, I don't want her to be a part of it. I don't want her to have to answer those questions, because as a fan that pays attention, it kind of annoys me that nobody, that this is the kind of stuff that's happening. It's like, she should be getting called on this. It's like, you married him. Your judgment is not perfect, Renee. And maybe you should, I don't know, tell your husband to lay the off. Like, I don't know.
I don't know though. On that same note, could we go after Lexi Nair and be like, "Why is your husband supporting geriatrico and hitting people with backpacks full of bricks?"
That's, I will say that's true. But I think fewer people are aware
That's probably
of
true.
that relationship, whereas Mox and Renee are famously together and were famously secretive about it for a long time, to the point where it became kind of an internet fascination, and then they kind of had to publicly come out with it. And then, they essentially eloped. Like, they decided, like, in the middle of the night, hey, you want to get married? Yeah, okay. And then went to Vegas and got married. Like, in their backyard sweet. Or something like that. It was, I have to read the book again to remember exactly how it happened. But, like, it was definitely an impulsive decision to do it when they did and how they did it and how small it was. So,
yeah.
Like, it was, Lexi Nair being married to Big Bill, or are they married, or they just affianced?
I think they recently got actually married. I think
Okay.
I think that might have been last time they, like, Big Bill was off TV for a while. Like, he and her were both off TV for a while, and they got married. There was pictures.
Well,
I forget who posted the picture. It was like Ricky Starks maybe that posted the picture, or somebody. One of his friends posted a like from the inside the business posted a picture of their wedding. It was really pretty. So.
Well, either way, I think that's lesser known, and honestly, Big Bill doing singular heel things, not as dastardly as, putting bags over your friend's face.
I mean, okay, that is fair.
Out.
That's fair. Okay. That's fair.
Speaking of the Death Riders, though, they come out and lay her out, and then, like, don't even, like, pay her any more attention. Like, it's really rude, actually. They come out, they lay her out, and then they go to the ring and said, Moxley says that this is his house, and nobody comes into his house and lays out the challenge, which is dumb because he just said, like, the opposite thing a month ago. You got to come and get after me. It's like, No, you're being a hypocritical heel guy. Um, yeah. Jay White comes to answer them all, and it looks like he's a dum dum for doing that because there are a whole bunch of them out there except Pac, and then Pac sneaks up behind him. But then Copeland comes out here and he leads the charge, and White hits the Blade Runner on Pac on the ramp. Spear to Yuta. Uh, what's his face? Cope goes under the ring, gets Spike, his big cricket bat or whatever it is, with a whole bunch of like 6-inch nails on it. Uh, Chases him up through the crowd, grabs a mic that was somewhere in the crowd for some reason, and says, "I'm gonna take out the Death Riders one by one because you're too afraid to face me one on one. I know this, and so I'm gonna have to take my matters in my own hands." Uh, Next match was Megan Bayne versus Chris Statlander, and this match ruled. This
Yeah, it
match
was really
freaking
good.
ruled. I've been kind of on the fence about Megan Bayne because she's been in mostly squash matches. Like, even she was made to look good in the gauntlet, but it still wasn't like enough for me to really make a decision on her yet. Nope, I'm on the bandwagon now. Megan Bayne is awesome. Chris Statlander is always awesome. They're just back and forth. Megan Bayne hasn't been put in this kind of danger since her re-debut. But Statlander really, really took it to her. Uh, th- think of it was like Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar in 2003, but
Yeah.
with big meaty women, and I mean that respectfully. But like it was a lot like that, right down to the F5 finish. But it was facilitated by Penelope Ford getting involved, so we are seeing that alliance uh, continue, which is I like. Gives Penelope something to do, uh, gives Megan something to do. Neither one of them are like huge talkers right now, so and it may go to what we have been talking about over the last couple of weeks about maybe them building a women's tag team division
Yeah.
under our noses without us realizing it. Instead of like doing the WWE way where, oh, these are these brand new titles. Oh, we don't have a division built up for them. All right, you two, Frankenstein. You two, Frankenstein. You two, Frankenstein. You two, oh, you're best friends? Okay, that's fine. That makes sense at least. At least one element out of these six makes sense. But whereas if this is leading to what I think it is, Tony Khan is doing the smart thing and strategically booking alliances before the belts are introduced to make the belts make sense, as opposed to the other way around where the belts are here, now we need teams to make sense.
Yeah.
So if that's what's happening, maybe I'm looking too much into it. I will gladly, if I'm wrong, I'll gladly accept me just wishful thinking it into trying to wishful think it into existence. But I think that's what's happening. I think he's building kind of under the radar a women's tag team division.
I feel like
And
that
I'm
might
here
be
for
happening
it.
too. Yeah, and I'm totally here for it. Yeah, let's do it.
They've got a large enough roster now between them and between main roster and ROH where they could really do some stuff with it if they took it seriously. Women's division has been spotty at best when it comes to their booking historically. So we'll see. But so far, I like the steps they're taking.
Yeah.
Afterwards, Bane and Ford they put the boots to Statlander, but Thunder Rosa comes and makes the save. Sort of. It's really,
Oh,
really awkward.
this.
I have no idea how this broke down because Thunder Rosa is a professional, so I'm sure that there was like some kind of miscommunication. I think part of it was like Megan wasn't selling any of it.
No, not at all.
she
Ugh.
she wasn't selling the danger of getting hit with a chair that Rosa brought down, and then Rosa, like pump faked her, and she didn't even flinch. It's like, I have no idea if it was a communication thing. I have no if it's a personality thing that needs to be addressed right now in HR before this devolves into another CM Punk Young Bucks monstrosity. I have no idea what happened, but it was definitely the low light of the show was how awkward this interaction was.
Mm-hmm.
It made Thunder Rosa look real bad,
Yeah.
and I don't think it was her fault.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
don't think it was her fault. It doesn't smack past the smell test to me
No.
that it would have been her fault. I think probably something weird's going on with her and Megan Bain, and or Megan Bain is just that green or whatever, or she forgot her cue or something. I don't want to point fingers, but I can't it doesn't make sense to me to come to the conclusion that this was on Thunder Rosa.
No, I don't feel like it was. It looked really bad and really awkward.
It's bad.
And I feel like
It was
Thunder did what she was supposed to do, and I feel like the heels were supposed to powder, and they didn't.
yeah. Yeah, Penelope didn't even powder. Although she
No.
did more than Bane to sell it. I'll give her that.
Yeah, she was
Um,
trying to sell it, but Bane was just not selling it. And whatever that is, nip that in the bud now before it becomes a
Yeah.
problem. Because what you've done inadvertently on Tony Khan's part, I'm sure this wasn't meant by him. I'm sure he did not tell them go out there and just no sell a steel chair.
Yeah.
Especially if Rose is a veteran, because in some cases she might have hit her with it anyway. But I don't think Tony Khan told them to do that. I think maybe
I
they
think
just
it would have been better if she'd gone through and hit her with it.
yeah.
And she had to improvise.
If we had to improvise, we had to improvise. But yeah, whatever this was, I feel like Thunder Rosa hit her cue, and everybody else just kind of acted like it was no big deal, and that it made Thunder Rosa look bad. And I'm sorry,
and Stat couldn't do anything because she was the one who needed saving.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah,
it wasn't on her to save the segment. It was bad.
Yeah.
Like, it was embarrassing.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
It sucked too because I liked everything that led up to that. I liked where it looked like it was going, and then it just fell apart. Bummer.
Yeah.
After that, Ricochet is there in the robe. I mean, I have to give it to the guy. Like, I hate to, but like the dude is doing phenomenal work right now as a heel.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take that away from him. This is his role. Like, he got on the case of the audience about they boo him because he's a winner. Like like you all boo the Yankees or whoever, and just because they win, you guys are losers. So Ricochet said he's come here to win gold, and that's where his sights are set on for 2025. Swerve Strickland's music hits, but it's just Nana, just Prince Nana, who says that he asked Swerve Strickland to stay out of this and to go home so he could handle his business straight up. He said he knows that they've been beefing and everything, but Ricochet is wearing something that doesn't belong to him. It means a lot to him. It's emblematic of his 3 decades in the business and how much the embassy meant in terms of Ring of Honor and pro wrestling history. And anyone who was wearing that was bestowed the opportunity to be great. But Prince Nana has not given you that opportunity. So, I would really appreciate it if you would do me a favor and give me back the robe. And then Ricochet just was like, "You're not getting the robe back, Nana." And then does his crappy little laugh and walks off, and leaving Nana looking very pathetic in the ring, very sympathetic. I mean, it was good stuff. Like, we'd say it every week. I say it every week. I know you must be tired of hearing it, but like, for a guy who's hanging around with guys like Chase and Rance, the guy's still doing like really just next level work, both in the ring and as a character. So I will give him the credit that he is due there.
Yeah.
Moving on. International Championship Series, Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong. Man, this made me happy. Especially putting Kyle O'Reilly in the middle of it. All the Kyle and Adam Cole were on the outside. Orange Cassidy comes to the ring by himself. To Jane. Jane is back. Oh, I unironically love that song and think it's one of the best current wrestling theme songs. Unironically, unashamedly, it's a silly 1970s song from what many consider one of the worst bands of all time, which I vehemently disagree with. But that song perfectly, like, it gets the crowd pumped up because of the intro. It's got that great riff to it, incredible vocals, like, and the coup de grace is that this big rockin' anthem is for the guy who doesn't care and puts his hands in his pockets. I think is perfect. But yeah, like they kept on putting Kyle O'Reilly on the outside in a position where like Roddy and Orange were like fighting for his affection, and Kyle was just ready to give his affection to both of them because he loves them both. Like, it's, cool Kyle is cool. Good stuff back and forth. Both of these guys look great. Lots of backbreakers. More backbreakers from Roddy than I've seen in a while. Thank goodness. Love the Messiah of the backbreaker. He only gets a 2 count with an end of heartache. That's not something that's doled out willy-nilly.
Yeah.
The return of the Stronghold. Love that. I mean, I know it's just the Boston Crab, but like, I think it's a great name for it. And then he goes for a Texas Cloverleaf, which I was like, did Dean book this match? Was he the agent on this? But yeah, Orange, he eats a sick kick, but counters the a second end of heartache with a stun dog millionaire, hits an orange punch out of nowhere, and 1, 2, 3, it's over. The ending did kind of come out of nowhere, but I mean, that's the purpose of the punch as a finisher. Like, I'll tell you what, like, it's a silly finish, but you know what? I'd rather him have the finish than Roman Reigns, because honestly, Orange makes it look better. He just does. It just does. Like, Roman's is fine, but it's good that it's a setup for him, because like, I don't believe it for him as a finish. But for the most part, unless he's going up against Jon Moxley, who will no-sell 4 of them straight in a row, I believe it for Orange. And it's the kind of thing that you can do on anybody.
Yeah.
So, considering he's a little guy, that's a very valuable characteristic of a finisher for him. After the match, Shivani comes out and interviews Orange Cassidy. Weird, because he wasn't on commentary for the whole night at all.
Yeah.
In fact, they brought JR back for the main event, which is like, oh wow, all right.
Yeah.
And he was not as. He sounded locked in, which is not something that I can say for like the past year for him.
Yeah.
Necessarily. He's showing his age. He's a legend, but even legends, lose it after a while. But Shivani was in there, and he's about to interview Orange, but Don Callis comes out with his black hole music. And the family is there, and they beat him up, but Omega makes the save, and then they do the thing where Omega has the belt and he holds it up high for Takeshita to see, but Orange is still in the ring, and it could be Orange. It doesn't. It may not be Takeshita that Omega faces. I mean, it will be, but I mean, they're teasing it. I mean, the fact that they're making them go through a gauntlet like this, though, makes me suspect that maybe it'll be a three-way that also involves Orange, so that Takeshita can win and extend the program without beating Omega again.
Mm-hmm. It's possible.
So I think maybe that's where they're going with it, because I don't understand the way that they've set this up. Like, shouldn't the end should be Takeshita defending the belts. The end shouldn't be Omega challenging for the belts.
No.
Like, Omega shouldn't be above the belts, but he's positioned that way. I can only imagine that that's on purpose to provide the story beat that, oh, well, we want Orange in here too. We have to figure out a way to do that. So we give him a win against Roddy to build him up as a challenger and give him his first match in 2025, I think, um, to justify his placement there. Then have a screwy finish or a time limit draw so that both Takeshita and Orange go on to the final round and face Omega with the belt on the line, so that Orange can take the pin from Takeshita and prolong this until maybe Double or Nothing, where Omega wins the belt proper. But yeah, this match or this episode of Dynamite, with the one exception of the disastrous end to the women's segment, was really really good. And that, spoiler alert, trend would continue for the rest of the week. But we'll get there soon enough. Right now, though, we have to go to the Morton.
Yeah. All right. Our Morton spot for the week is SmackDown. It was. I'm just gonna say it, man. And I feel like I'm not making a hot take here, and the general consensus was with me. But this was just not a good show, man. It was just. I don't know if it was the pacing, or some of the content, or what, but it just was. I'll get into it more as we go on. I'm gonna skip a lot of the segment parts because they were just badly paced. The wrestling was pretty good around. There wasn't enough of it to make up for bad pacing in this one pretty bad segment. So we'll talk about that. But I'm gonna try to remain positive by talking about what was some pretty good wrestling. So we start the show with Nick Aldis, and he's telling Cody Rhodes that he can't be part of the 6-man tag that's going on later tonight with the I think it's with the New Bloodline, because The Rock said so. And The Rock wants to see him in the ring later. So we're going to get a segment between The Rock and Cody Rhodes. But then we kick off and we're going straight into Jimmy Uso versus Drew McIntyre. The last couple of weeks, they kind of been working this program where these guys have been, talking back and forth to each other. And Jimmy faced Drew a week or two ago and picked up a win, which was odd. But this time, I think maybe this might be what's replacing the Damian Priest thing with Drew McIntyre, because, they had, a little shit talking back and forth, not really a promo, but they didn't have mics. They were just talking, jabbering back and forth at each other. And then they had a pretty hard hitting match. But Jimmy scored the win. When he turned a reverse Alabama slam into a victory roll. So he rolled up Drew McIntyre with a victory roll and got the win. But McIntyre continued to attack him after the bell. So, I'm not sure what's going on with this exactly, but, if this is going to be a match at a pay-per-view, Drew's definitely going to be carrying this thing. Jimmy's still, I don't know. He's good, but he's not like his spear was kind of iffy in this match. Some other things that I noticed. I'm not trying to be down on the guy. He's obviously got some talent, but he kind of needs to lean into where he already has his talent and not try to, I don't know, maybe come up with your own thing. Maybe just ditch the whole bloodline thing altogether. Ditch the spear, ditch anything Roman does, and just come up with your own thing. Keep your super kick.
Yeah, I think so many of these Samoan, the Fatus and the Anoais, I think they're so I hate to say that they're being limited by their own family, but it seems that ever since Afa and Sika were the Wild Samoans, and they kind of established like all of the Samoan tropes that like all most of their descendants ever do is kind of pay tribute to them, and it's limiting their presentation.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the guy to say don't respect your your elders, don't respect your your dads and your uncles who did, or your cousins who did this before you. I'm not going to be the guy to say that, but I will say that if all y'all have essentially the same move set, it's going to be boring.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of I'm astounded at Jay's popularity despite that, because he's still using the Superfly Splash. He's still using the spear. He's still using Samoan drops.
Mm-hmm.
He's still doing super kicks. Like all of the like the tropes.
Yeah.
He's still using all of them, and he's massively over, and good for him. That's fantastic, great for him.
Yeah.
But I'm very surprised because he's not, at least in the ring, he's not doing anything that any of his cousins aren't doing already.
Yeah.
At least Jacob Fatu is so dynamic, and he mixes it up, with moonsaults and other stuff like that. Like he's hip attacks too. That's another thing that all the Samoans do is hip attacks. Like, it's just like he's mixing it up. Tama Tonga, I could say he's mixing it up, except he's boring. Tongaloa is even more so, because he's a bad wrestler, guys. Tongaloa's a bad wrestler.
He hasn't been around in a while, so I
Well,
think
I
they
mean,
probably
he's
figured
been
it out.
injured, and I wish him a speedy recovery. I don't wish anybody to get injured, but he's not a good wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, have you seen that clip of him against Okada in
Yes.
New Japan?
Yes, I have.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And Okada had to sell all that.
Yeah.
It was absolutely mortifying as a wrestling fan watching that. And this is a guy who was already with WWE as Camacho. Like, this is a guy who should have gotten better, and he hasn't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe that comes as, I've never been in the ring, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I know, I'm just a fan. But, like, I do not feel anything when I watch him wrestle except, oh, great, he's wrestling.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like maybe if they leaned a little bit less into their shared legacy and their shared movesets, that maybe more of them would get over.
Yeah.
Because they'd be seen as individuals instead of just, oh, he's another branch on this family tree.
Yeah.
Oh, this family, like, half of the roster is freaking Samoans right now. Like,
it's not too bad for the most part, but
it's not World Wrestling Entertainment, it's Samoan Wrestling Entertainment.
right. So, yeah, so it was an all right match. But then we go backstage. We've got Carmelo Hayes talking to R-Truth again. And R-Truth is like, or Carmelo's like, I'm sorry we're doing this again or whatever. And R-Truth's like, oh, it's no worry. It's a tag team match. And Carmelo was apparently unaware that this was a tag team match. But he's like, who made this a tag team match? Who asked for this? And then Miz pops up in the back. He's like, I asked for this, because Melo don't Miz. And he tries to fist bump Carmelo again. And Carmelo's just like, I'm not doing this. Like, we are not doing this. And R-Truth was like, it's okay.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah. So they're kind of arguing a little bit, but they're like, yeah, well, we'll just take out R-Truth and whoever his partner is. It don't matter. And R-Truth's like, it's okay. I got a legend that's right here from New Orleans himself, because they're in New Orleans. And so Carmelo Hayes and Miz come out, and then R-Truth comes out, and he's like, and I'm going to bring out this guy who's from New Orleans right now, Louisiana Night. So he thinks LA Night stands for Louisiana Night. And it's freaking hilarious.
At least he doesn't think it's Los Angeles Night.
Right. But, so they're having a decent tag match. About midway through, Shinsuke Nakamura shows up. He then interferes and helps Melo and Miz get the win. It looks like we're still doing LA Knight and Shinsuke, even though I don't know what they're doing with them exactly. Like, I would really like them to give me some more clarity on this whole thing and maybe separate it more from other things.
What's the thing they do with Nakamura whenever they give him a belt, is they give him a mid-card belt and they forget about that he exists.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. Again,
It's so stupid. It happened almost every single time he's gotten a mid-card belt. That's what's happened? Is they give it to him. Oh, great, job done, and then they just forget about him for sometimes over a month. Like, what are we doing?
right. So then, after that, we had Tiffany Stratton versus Candice LeRae. Match was pretty good. They kind of jaw jack back and forth promo style before the match happened for about 30 seconds. And then, Nia's out there with Candice. And then they go to a commercial break. And when we come back, Charlotte Flair is there also watching the match from like near the commentary table. She wasn't on commentary. Or no, she was on commentary because she called herself unattainable. Like they asked her like what her deal was. And she was like, I'm unattainable. That's why no one likes me. I don't know what that means. I'm pretty sure Andrade attained you. Anyway.
Yeah, and then he unattained her.
Then he unattained her, yeah. So anyway, the match was okay. It went pretty long. It went through 2 commercial breaks. It was pretty competitive. It was a good match. But Stratton defeats Candice LeRae, and then Nia comes in and starts attacking Tiffany, and she's about to hit her finisher, but then Trish came down to save her, but then they took out Trish too, and then Trish and Stratton both got an annihilator at the same time. Jeez. Ugh. This was also the first time I had seen Tiffany Stratton make any kind of botch of any kind. Like she tried to run up the ropes once and missed. I mean, she did it immediately a second time and succeeded. But
wrestling was hard.
Yeah, wrestling was hard. She totally slipped off the rope though. I'm glad she didn't get hurt. Like she just kind of
slipping on a rope can be real bad. Like you can definitely land on your throat and just crush your larynx. Like it's a bad time.
Yeah. I think everybody in the WWE right now is obsessed with Alabama slams because Tiffany Alabama slammed Candice LeRae into the barricade, and it was ugly. Boy, was it ugly.
That sounds it.
It was very ugly. Okay, so then we're going to get to the talk of the town, and what I feel is like the low point of the evening, and an evening that, other than the wrestling, doesn't really have a lot of high points. So The Rock comes out, and everybody cheers, and he does his finally thing, and, the Rock shtick. And then he tells everybody in New Orleans that WrestleMania 42 is going to be, or 43, I guess, is it 42 or 43? Next year.
Well, next year is 42.
Okay, so 42 is going to be at the Superdome in Louisiana. So that's cool. Okay. Everybody.
I like how they're just cycling through all the big venues they've been in the past 10 years and going nowhere new.
Yeah. I haven't been to New Orleans though, so I kind of want to go next year because I haven't ever been to New Orleans. So I think that'll be cool.
Oh, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that because Royal Rumble is going to be in Riyadh next year. That's somewhere new.
God. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. God. Anyway, so he then he invites Cody Rhodes to the ring and had a really long diatribe from The Rock about how he wants Cody Rhodes to be his champion and he can open doors for him never opened before and make him a huge Hollywood star. And it sounded like the devil making a pitch to you for your soul. And it wasn't just that, but it also at the same time sounded like someone who isn't really part of wrestling talking about wrestling, even though The Rock is very much part of wrestling. He even mentioned a bunch of other things that I won't go into that were that had nothing to do with anything. They shouldn't have even been part of this. This went on way too long. It was way too droning. Even Cody looked confused at the end of it when The Rock said, I want your answer as to whether you'll be my champion next week. And Cody just kind of looked confused, like, what just happened? Because I don't know if he could process any better than us at home could process what was happening. Because there were things happening, but it wasn't really, it was confusing at best. Let's put it that way. It was confusing. It was a low point of the night. Usually The Rock coming out is a big thing, and we thought maybe he would throw a wrench in WrestleMania plans, but he just confused everybody. Thanks, WWE. I hated it. And I usually don't hate when The Rock shows up. I hated this. But they brought it back for me pretty much immediately because the next thing we had was DIY versus Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly earned that tag title shot last week by beating DIY. And so what we had here was a really nice, like 15-minute hard hitter, man. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Pretty Deadly. They prance around like theater kids, but they will kick your ass. And them and DIY are a fantastic combination of back and forth ass kicking. These guys have some really great moves. They kept hitting double team moves, like some crazy double team moves. Here's the problem that I have with this match. 3/4 of the way through this segment, Street Profits show up. Street Profits. And they kind of just beat up and laid to waste the entire match. Really? And I hate when that ends. The Motor City Machine Guns tried to come out and stop this, but they dispatched them as well. The match is ruled a no contest, but I don't think I think the crowd's way more into DIY and Pretty Deadly, even more maybe than they are of Motor City Machine Guns getting a rematch against DIY. And I don't think they're into this. I don't think they're into the Street Profits at all right now because they probably don't feel like they belong in this program. And I kind of don't feel like they belong in this program either. I understand the motivations. I get the history. I understand why this is the point we're at. I get it. But if you go by what the crowd is reacting to and what they want, we want more DIY versus Pretty Deadly. I want more of that. And I didn't think, if you had asked me 6 months ago if I would make that choice between Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits, it probably wouldn't be the same answer. Pretty Deadly have really busted their asses for this spot, and they shouldn't get thrown out of it. Maybe we'll see these 4 teams and, getting mixed up all in it. Maybe we'll see something like that. I don't know. Then we go on to our main event. Now, the main event was supposed to be Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes, and Braun Strowman against Tama, Jacob Fatu, and Solo Sikoa. Because The Rock pulled Cody Rhodes, now it's just Damian Priest and Braun Strowman. And Jacob Fatu kind of unilaterally makes the decision that Tama Tonga and Solo are going to be the tag team and not him and Tama. I guess to probably protect him from taking a pin, maybe also so he can interfere. Fatu and Sikoa are obviously not on the same page. That's where this is going. But this was a really, really hard-hitting match. They did at one point have a miscommunication that led to Fatu hitting Solo with a super kick. And that kind of set up him catching I want to say End of Days, but I think that's Baron Corbin's move.
It is.
Whatever Damian Priest's move is.
South of Heaven.
South of Heaven. There it is. Yeah, that's sit out.
Yeah, sit down chokeslam.
Sit down chokeslam. Yeah. So he hit us South of Heaven on Solo, and that's what got the win. After Braun Strowman ran around the ring and trucked Tama through the announce table the hard way, it was gnarly. But yeah, it was a really hard hitting match. It was a good match. It was a great way to end what was otherwise kind of a down SmackDown. Especially that Rock segment just kind of tore it down for me. I didn't really enjoy it at all. But the wrestling on the show, there was more wrestling than there normally is on a 3-hour SmackDown, and it was all actually pretty good. So I'll give SmackDown the benefit of the doubt this week and say, yeah, great wrestling, but don't ever do that with The Rock again, please. Whatever that was, let's make sure we give that man some bullet points and tell him he can't drink any of his own tequila before he goes out there. I don't know what was going on there.
do you think that maybe, I mean, because it was announced for the show that The Rock was going to be there very close to when the show was actually going on the air. Like it was within a day or so. Do you think that maybe The Rock had his schedule clear or something and he had some kind of idea for WrestleMania and he wanted to implement it as soon as possible, and then they didn't really have a whole idea yet, but they were going on the air and they had to do something? Like this kind of reeks of, oh, we have a kernel of an idea, but we don't have an entire idea. So let's just put what we have on the table and hope people like it, and maybe they'll do our job for us via speculation.
God, I hope not. Yeah, honestly,
It's not a great way to book a show.
no, I don't. I feel like this was just unfinished going in. I feel like they were trying to get somewhere that they didn't get. And I don't know where that is. I don't know what the deal is. They did a presser afterwards where The Rock said this doesn't need to end in a match between him and Cody.
So wait a minute. It doesn't need to end in a match. A wrestling angle doesn't need to end in a match. Number one. What? Number two, why was there a presser after a SmackDown?
The Rock is the best answer I can give you. But
Ugh.
honestly, I hope not, man. I hope that that they're not gonna jumble up. You know what? Like, I don't need the live action director of Moana to call this man back for reshoots any more than I ever have than right now. Like, I am just
I'm just really, really concerned about how good Moana is gonna be. I just need him back for like a month.
for a month in April. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what's happening here. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I said there is an outside force that could just swing their dick around and change WrestleMania, and there it is. And I really hope he doesn't, and I really hope he stays out of it. And I really wish that his id would take over his ego and let him know that you need to stop doing this to people. You're acting like Shane, except you have wrestling talent.
I mean,
I hate this. I hate
Shane,
it, dude.
Shane was good for what he did.
Yeah, he was good for what he did.
For a non-wrestler, he was pretty good.
Yeah. But this is somebody who's head and shoulders above Shane in wrestling talent.
Oh yeah.
But has arguably right now more power to call things and make things happen than Shane ever did.
Yeah.
That could be and agree with me or not, a tremendous ego.
Oh, yeah.
Without 100%. A doubt, a tremendous ego. So I don't know. I don't like any of what was happening in that promo. I don't like anything that's happening with him possibly changing things. I don't know what he means by he wants Cody Rhodes to be his champion. It sounded like a Faustian thing more than anything. And I mean, if it's a deal with the devil, where do we go from here to keep it interesting? Because if you're going to make a deal with the devil storyline in any way interesting, I'm sorry, but I've watched enough Supernatural to know you got to take the deal. So where do we go from here? No freaking idea.
Paint a crossroads right in the middle on the canvas there.
Yeah.
They gotta dig it in, and they gotta put their little hex box right in the center, and then bury it up, and then a red-eyed demon will come out and make you kiss him.
Yeah, and that's The Rock, apparently.
That's how it works.
So
yeah,
I synced it. So I don't know how this is going to go, man. It kind of leaves more questions than answers as far as WrestleMania goes. And I'm really glad Elimination Chamber is next week to provide us with more clarity so that if he is going to botch one of these storylines, we can figure out which one it's going to be quicker. Gosh. A month and a half to WrestleMania, and I am I'm chomping at the bit to know what the card's even going to be besides Jay and Gunther and Charlotte and Tiffany, which both of those matches are probably going to be bangers. And if the brawls that Jay and Gunther have been having these last few weeks are any indication, that's going to be a banger match. Charlotte, if she is performing at her peak ability and Tiffany at hers, that will be a great freaking match. It might be match of the show across both days. So we will see, but that's all we know. And with The Rock coming in, that makes things even less clear. It just muddies the waters. I don't like that part, but I could deal with this if there was a clear end or a clear road to where they're going from this promo. This promo was garbage. I hated it. I know I'm not alone in that. I thought SmackDown as a whole was drugged down immensely by this. And the show itself, because of this disjointing everything on either side of it, just did not feel cohesive like it has the last couple of weeks. They were really coming up on how to make a 3-hour show interesting to somebody like me who hates a 3-hour show. And they somehow made, except for a pay-per-view. But they were getting it. They had their pacing right. It made a 3-hour show blow by like nothing. And then this week feels like it just walked back every bit of that progress. And I'm sorry, but between this week and the last couple of weeks, there's only one key difference, and that is Dwayne Johnson's presence. What am I supposed to say? I mean, I can see in front of me what I see. Don't know.
It's just so interesting because, we're so used to The Rock being so welcome and, such a dynamic presence that usually adds a lot of value to whatever show he's on. And now, at least on this occasion, and hopefully this isn't a pattern, but, it's just so weird to see him be on the complete opposite end of the spectrum here. It's very strange. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, I'm not used to it either, and I don't know. Maybe that makes me like it even less. But in the interest of trying to remain positive, I will end on a good note that and reiterate the wrestling was good, especially DIY and Pretty Deadly pre-interference. I need more of that. I need more of it. Last week's match was great. This week's match was great before the interference. I need more of this. I need more. It was great. So they could have done 3-hour match, a 3-hour like triple Broadway or whatever with that tag match, and I would have liked it a lot better than I liked the show altogether. But yeah, and there was really great wrestling on this show and a lot more than normal. But I think they did that to make up for the fact that they had what would turn out to be like a 20 or 25-minute segment in the middle of the show that didn't make any damn sense. And I think maybe they knew that was going to happen. So they were like, let's stack it up with good wrestling or at least give everybody time to cook, and they did. And now somewhere in here, I didn't write down where exactly this happened. I just have a note about it. There was an Alexa Bliss video package where she's really leaning into the Wyatt thing. And she's talking about how Elimination Chamber is her house because she's won it. She's won the women's championship in the Elimination Chamber. So
Bray Wyatt won the WWE title inside the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, so we may see like a big swerve in all of this, and Alexa comes out the winner and goes forward to face Rhea, which would be the two goth chicks are fighting. I want to watch. So we don't know where that's going to go, but the Alexa Bliss video package was really good, and they did lean into like the Wyatt Six theme and stuff like that. So we will see where that goes, and if it does indeed involve the Wyatt Six in the future. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if Nikki showed up to back her up at the Elimination Chamber, just kind of like popped up out of the ring or something. Like, hey, I've been here all damn night.
Doing the spooky thing.
Yeah. I like the spooky thing when it's like they're doing it, because they're not really doing supernatural about it. They're just being creep. And I'm cool with it that way.
They're not murdering people backstage and getting away with it and long, continuous shots of the camera for some reason.
Yeah. So yeah. Other than, the wrestling was great on SmackDown. Other than that, I don't want to keep saying anything because I want to try to remain positive. So, with that said, we can move into our hot tag.
All right, hot tag is Collision for 2/22/2025. They taped this right after Dynamite, so it's in the same venue. So you still got that incredible theater. You still got a crowd that really did its darndest to keep up. Those tapings are long, and I have to give it up for Phoenix, Arizona. They were, oh man, they were fighting to hang on to what energy they could. I know it petered out a little bit at the end, but I mean, who could blame them? Really, it's a long time to be there. It was not for lack of trying, and applause to you because man, you guys were a fantastic crowd. Including you, Nemetes. I know you were there. Uh, Blue Sky, celebrities, Andy and Amy.
Yeah.
uh, Cold Open opens the show with Mariah May attacking Tony Storm in the back and dragging her out onto the stage and literally stealing her spotlight gimmick.
Yeah.
It was great. It really mirrored when she first turned on her last year in July. I want to say it was June or July, leading up to All In, where she was, she had her battered and kind of holding her in her lap as she knelt down. This was also after I must point out that she gave her a Storm Zero on the stage. It was it was she cuts a promo and basically just says a bunch of crazy person nonsense, but says that at Revolution it will be they will get their Hollywood ending, which the show is from LA, so that makes sense given both the storyline, the characters, and the location. So
Yeah.
I guess that's three things, so not both, but all of that. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's going. And the graphic said Hollywood ending, so I'm not sure if that's going to be like a gimmick match type, or if it's just like the subtitle for the final act of this saga. But either way, I mean, I'm invested. You've got my attention. You had it already, but you have it again. So, um, Jim Ross is on commentary, still there from the main event, and he'd be there through the whole show. And for the most part, he was pretty good.
Yep.
Like I said, he's in his old age, he's kind of slipping up here and there, but he was pretty good right up until the end. So good for you, Jr. Love you. I don't mean to say mean things about you. I'm just saying the truth. But the first match to start out with was Lucha Libre at its finest. You got Hologram versus the Beast Mortos. This was in Phoenix. This is in, Lucha territory, the southern border of the United States. This was always going to get over with the crowd. And that's one of those things I love about TK is that anytime he goes to Texas or Arizona or Southern California, he always loads up Collision specifically. He always loads up Collision with luchadors. Like
Yeah.
it's smart. It's
Yeah.
just smart. Like, it's not difficult. It's not groundbreaking. It's just seeing, oh, we're going to be amongst this demographic. How about we play to that demographic?
Yep.
Not hard, but it makes a big difference because immediately this match is hot from the gate. Like it's just there was so much cool stuff in this match. These two have excellent chemistry. I don't know how many times they've wrestled each other before, but I mean, it's like they've done this, 10 dozen times by now.
Yeah.
There was some really cool stuff. I love it. Anytime Mortos does that incredible gorilla press slam from the top rope.
Oh man,
Like
that thing.
just I pop for it every single time. It is so impressive every single time. I've never seen anybody do that except Beast Mortos. And it's just so impressive. Like that should be his finish. Like that should be his finish. Because I'm sorry. I don't buy you kicking out of that hologram. I saw you do it. I don't believe that happened. I believe that you were there for 3 and that your name is hologram. You tricked the referee with a trick of the light, and you were actually down for 3. I think you cheated, hologram. You didn't kick out 3. But yeah, there was lots of dives and stuff, lots of stuff on the outside. On the outside on the stage, there was Mortos did this incredible running crucifix bomb. Like it was just I can't even describe it. I watched it over and over again. And I'm like, I still can't imagine. I still can't put together how he did it, how those two pulled it off because
No
it's
idea, dude.
smooth as silk. and I can't put all the pieces together, even in like watching frame by frame. It was just incredible. And not to be outdone, when they get back in the ring, Hologram does a crucifix bomb, a diving crucifix bomb off the top rope onto him. Like, this is just incredible. Like, I
Yeah.
know we always extol the virtues of the Beast Mortos. We're huge fans of his on this show.
Yep.
Matches like this just further that fandom. But man, what are we doing? Like, why is he taking so many L's here? Like, this is a guy that we should be pushing. He's getting over on his work ethic alone, and the fact that he has a sheep's mask on his face and just growls at people. Like, he's organically getting over. Like, push the man, please. I want to see him get more wins. That's not to say that I dislike Hologram, and it's not to say I disagree with his push, because the dude is great. And, I don't even disagree with him winning here, which he did. He, like, reverses an Irish whip with the Spanish fly, eats a lariat, but then kind of hits him with a weird, like, running sunset flip. Like, it was something more than a sunset flip, but I couldn't really describe else. It had more impact than that. It was more like a sunset bomb, but almost not quite. Like, it was weird. I can't. It was some lucha thing that I don't know the name of. Let's just say that. And he rolled him up for the pin, but it was more of a roll up, so that he could get attacked afterwards by the Beast Mortos. Uh, Commander comes out to make the save, and they do like he Hologram and Commander do this kind of cool from double enziguri to Mortos, who's on his knees, and come at him from either direction and kind of sandwich his head in between the boots that are coming at him. Be a really good tag team finish. Maybe we should get them involved in the tag team division. I'd be
Yeah.
okay with it. I don't think there's a pure lucha team in the division, so that it could really use that. Um, but yeah, I don't know where LFI was though.
Yeah, I don't either.
Dralistico, Roosh, come help your boy. Where you at?
Literally anybody, right? Like, your
Where
boy's
you
getting his
at?
ass whipped right now.
Your
Where are y'all?
beast is getting whooped out here. They branded your beast. What are you doing?
They're messing
I
with the
thought you were
bull.
the
Where
mean
are the
ones.
horns?
I thought you were the mean ones. Like,
Right?
come on. Vignette aired for Speedball Mike Bailey, finally confirming that he's all elite and that he's coming to All Elite Wrestling after what seems like endless months of speculation now.
Yeah.
Uh,
We
I've
speculated
not
him for
seen-
Continental Classic.
Yeah, like, I've not seen any of Mike Bailey's work. I know him through reputation only. So I am looking forward to seeing his work.
Okay, so when we were hearing about him initially, being done with was it TNA or
TNA.
New Japan? TNA. Okay, so when we were hearing about that initially, and it was right around the time of the Continental Classic, I went to my Blue Sky followers and I said, "Okay, look." Actually, I just went ahead and posted this out to the whole Wrestle Sky, feed, because I wanted somebody to answer me. And usually, if you tag Wrestle Sky, you'll get some likes and some answers. So I said, "Look,
It's a very helpful community.
yeah." I was like, I see a lot of people like super excited about the Speedball Mike Bailey guy. I do not watch TNA, and I don't really keep up with New Japan other than the Wrestle Kingdom shows at the beginning of the year. I was like, so somebody please give me a match to watch of his that will make me a fan, or that will give me a reason at least why all of these people are so adamant that he show up for this, pure wrestling tournament that's about to happen. And the very first comment I got was from a very helpful guy. I think it's Matt in London. Shout out to Matt if you're listening. And he said Speedball versus Osprey. And I thought immediately, okay, if anybody can make me a fan of somebody in the ring with them, it's Osprey. If this guy can keep up with Will, this is going to be pretty good. And I was not disappointed.
Good. Good. I'm glad. Like it's good when somebody lives up to the hype that surrounds them.
Yeah, he lived up. He lived up for sure. I'd like to see more, but he has they maybe. I don't know a lot about this guy, but I think he might be a they, not a he. So they. I hope I'm not I hope I'm not. I don't mean any offense. I don't know which one it is, and I'm pretty sure he competes in the men's division. So I'm gonna go with he for right now, but I think maybe they. I'm not sure. I don't want to offend anyone though. But Mike, I'll just say there we go. I'll just say his name. Mike. Mike Bailey has this glorious mullet and very like 80s Street Fighter feeling to him. At least that's how I feel about it. And I always dug Street Fighter, even the terrible movie. And yeah, like I dig his vibe, man. Like I'm kind of excited for him to show up in AEW. I was wondering where he was going to land, and I'm glad it's somewhere that I watch.
All right. I mean, that's good enough for me. I'm hyped. But yeah, there was a vignette for him. That was great. I'm looking forward to that. Lexi then interviews Harley Cameron. She proves once again to be just the most likable, charismatic person ever. She fakes out the crowd with the story about a little girl's dream to become a wrestler, and then says that girl's name was, I can't remember, what was it?
Suzette something.
Crandon? Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
And then like she basically implied that she stole that little girl's dream to become a wrestler. Like, how do you not get behind someone who's so charismatic, so insanely likable? Like, she's just this beautiful chaos gremlin, and
Everybody's favorite.
I love her so much. I definitely want her to go back on the ascent and eventually win that TBS championship. I think now that she's had the big loss, not just any other loss, a big loss, she climbs that mountain again, and then she wins that on the second go around. I think that's the proper way to do it. I think TK probably feels the same way. Otherwise, you would have had her just win. I think that's where we're headed, and I'm super excited for the journey because she's going to be so funny and so sympathetic on the way up that it's wrestling as it should be.
Yeah, it's
following
a
babyface wrestler as their journey should be written out, and I'm so I mean, you can't beat the classics, right?
Right.
Match number 2 was Gabe Kidd returning to AEW to face the Butcher. I love the Butcher as a fellow Buffalonian. It's always good to see that mustache around. It's great. This match was big meaty men slapping meat. Gabe Kidd's a little bit more than your average big man. He's really mean.
Yeah.
Like, he's real mean, guys. Like, I wouldn't want to fight this guy. Like, I wouldn't want to fight any of them. I'm a gigantic coward. But I definitely don't want to fight Gabe Kidd. And the Butcher should not have wanted to either. Because he it wasn't long before he got a pile driver and a 1-2-3. The interesting part of this was, though, that Don Callis was watching his match from the back. So it looks like he may be getting scouted to the family, and that in and of itself is kind of interesting, because in interviews, and granted, these were probably in character, but in interviews past, Gabe Kidd has made no bones about the fact that he thinks that New Japan is far superior to AEW, and that he thinks AEW is kind of trash. So, I mean, granted, those are in character. If he really thought that, he wouldn't have showed up to this match.
Probably
period. Not. So these are in character. But, like, if there's one thing that AEW generally likes to validate is continuity. Yeah. So, like, maybe they'll say he's changed his mind because he wants to avenge his loss to Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, and this is where he has to go to find him. And aligning himself with Don Callis is a pretty good way to get yourself a match with Kenny Omega. So, maybe that's down the line.
Yeah.
Directly after that, you go back to Callis, who's magically in a different room now. Miracle of editing. But he's there with Kyle Fletcher, and basically they just accept Ospreay's challenge to a steel cage match. Nothing special, just like they do a little spiel, but doesn't really add anything. Julia Hart versus Queen Aminata in what is regrettably on this card full of wrestling, the only women's match. TK, I say this a lot. Love you, do better.
Yeah.
Love you, do better. But yeah, this match was great. I love seeing Queenie getting more TV time again. Like there was a time where it looked like she was getting a lot and gaining some momentum, and then she was just off TV for a while. And now this is like the second week in a row that she's got a match against somebody who's on the up. She doesn't win. Queenie barely ever wins, but she looked good against Julia. She really used her leverage to her advantage. Wrestling like a larger, wrestling like the big guy, against the small guy, so, the psychology is definitely coming along there. What I thought was funny was the finish kind of came out of nowhere, but I think it worked. Julia Hart got the tap out with a flying octopus hold, which I haven't seen her use before. Usually she uses the Heartless, or she went for that gorgeous moonsault that she has, but she didn't. She got her feet to the face. I think it got countered. But yeah, like she gets her to tap with the flying octopus, kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, Julia was very giving. She gave up most of the offense to Queen Aminata. I don't really think Aminata loses anything here.
No,
to
be
be
it was
frank,
a great match.
I think that just the fact that she's on TV and getting these maybe not high profile, but these featured matches. She was in the only there. There should have been more women's matches, but guess what? Queen Aminata was in the only women's match.
Yeah,
they did choose her, so
yeah,
that's got to say something. But I hope that they start pushing her seriously soon, because the girl's worked real hard for the past 3 or 4 years, and she really has come a long way and really deserves it. Although they should give her a mic, because if you ever saw her episode of AEW, that girl has a personality, and a big one. She's got a very big personality, and I feel like something tells me they probably let it show a little bit more on Ring of Honor. But yeah, I think what would really put her over the top is give her a little bit more mic time so she can show how charismatic she actually is, because she's very she's a wild one.
yeah.
After that was the Murder Machines versus, I assume they were called Sky High. They were
They had
two
it written
locals.
on their tights, but that's all
they
I
had
knew.
it written on their tights, but we never got an official announcement for them, because they just brought them out from the back, threw them in the ring, beat them up, pinned them, and then let it go. They got on the mic afterwards and called out the Hurt Syndicate, who answer, and the entire theater is chanting, "We hurt people. We hurt people."
Oh, yeah, it was good.
I know that MVP is trying his darndest to make it very clear that they don't want to be cool heels, that they want to be, heels. But they're just too cool.
Yeah.
Like, even Bobby Lashley, as long as he doesn't open his mouth, as long as he doesn't open his mouth, he's fine. Just let MVP do all the talking, and they come off as just the coolest guy. They come out in those custom suits and the shades. They look great with the belts. Like, they look like $1,000,000. And the longer that this goes on, the more I'm convinced that even though it was kind of it felt kind of short lived in the moment, I think it was the right move to move the belts to them.
Yeah.
With due respect to Private Party. But they come out and they say, you just, all you do, you've got some wins behind you. And according to AEW rankings, .bsky.social, they are, where are you? Ah! I'm trying to find, where are the murder machines here? Oh, that's the trio style I'm looking at. That would make sense. Murder Machines are 2-0, but like this year. So, but they beat up like 2 local teams, and MVP was like, "You didn't beat anybody. You took advantage of inexperienced guys by jumping them before the bell, without giving them a real shot. That's not anything. Go face a real team, a real established AEW tag team, and we'll talk." Which is fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Totally fair.
That being said, they're sitting at number 1 if according to our friend AEW rankings. So I mean, they would be in line. Of course, when it's this early in the year, it's really easy as long as you're booked to get a couple of wins and then shoot up the rankings. They still are number 1, so they would be in line. Blah, blah, blah. Video package for Action Andretti and Leo Rush is shown. They have a new name, and it's what, Crew?
Yeah,
CRU.
CRU. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I think maybe if I was of a different cultural background, maybe I would have a better understanding of what that means.
I don't know. I'm just like, if you want to be a crew, don't you gotta have more than 2 people? Like,
I mean, 2 live crew never needed to.
I thought there was 3 of them.
I thought there was 2 of them. That's why there were 2. That's why it was number 2.
I don't know, man.
I could be wrong. I'm not.
But all I know is that this history. I don't know. I'm just really not that excited about Leo Rush next. As much as I like their wrestling, I'm just not excited about this as a.
I don't know what their name means, and that's making me like. I'm fine with them being a tag team. Throw them a Top Flight and have them feud for 3 months and have great matches for all time. That's great.
Yeah.
And then move one of those teams up the charts. It's fine. But like, I have no clue what crew means.
Yeah. Well, the problem I see with this here is like it isn't even so much the name; it's just that they've got them beefing with Top Flight, but that's all they do is beef. They don't get in the ring and have a match. Like they
did. They beat them the one time, and then they're just like getting on them over and over again about it.
They're still beefing, yeah. Like we need to have
Top Flight.
They need to just wrestle more and talk less.
Yeah,
between these,
they need to make space on the card for them to wrestle more often.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, if they're only going to do segments, have those actually progress things as opposed to just saying, "Hey, this is who we are."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, what do you do?
We know who y'all are. What do you do?
Yeah.
Like we see what you do. Even like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. World Trios Championship is up next. Death Riders in their second defense in like 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the Trios titles are being defended. That's fantastic. Yeah. Versus 2.0 and Danny Garcia, which honestly I feel should be named 3.0. The name, for the sake of consistency. But this was more competitive than I thought it would be. Like I like 2.0, but their in-ring work is kind of, I'll be kind and say old school. It's not like flashy.
No.
But
no.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I didn't realize that Matt Menard could play the heel, play the babyface in Peril as well as he could. Like he did a really good job. Like I thought he sold really well. Don't know why he's wearing just jeans. And really, really tight jeans at that. But
Yeah, right.
um, like this wasn't a street fight, so you just come off as like you forgot your gear. Like,
Right.
where's your gear, man? And Ange had gear. I don't know. But yeah, no, this was they let the baby faces have a little bit more in the beginning than I thought they would, simply because of who they are. And they saved that hot tag. They saved they did a good job of saving Danny Garcia for last. He didn't get tagged in once the entire match until the very, very end when he had to make the hot tag, and then he cleaned house. Um but he had to tag out at one point, and Parker was the legal man. He got cut off with a European uppercut after off of a dive. Brutalizer from Pac was locked in, and Parker taps. So it's not unforeseen.
Yeah.
I don't think they were gonna drop him to these guys, but it was fun. I mean, it was fun. It wasn't anything earth shattering, but it was fun. Um, Death Riders come out and attack at full strength after that, but then the Undisputed Kingdom comes out and kind of chases most of them off, but Pac is still in the middle of the ring. I believe he was what was it? Oh no, he was laid out before they chased him to the crowd. He was
Yeah.
laid out with the high and low,
Yeah.
and then that's when Moxley and Shafir come out from the back. They're at full strength, but they're still tied up in the crowd, and that's when Coke comes out. His music hits, and he just destroys Pac with not one but two
Two
concertos.
concertos, and in between, or after both of them, looking Moxley dead in the eyes with this
His
no soul look
expression,
on his face. Oh my god!
this entire segment was just it was chilling.
It was just
It was
stoned.
like this is
Oh
he was
yeah,
stone cold psychopath.
this is the
Like
best version of Edge.
yeah, it was like
This is the
oh.
best version of Edge right
And
there.
Mox was just standing there selling it like, oh crap, I woke this guy up. I
Yeah, dude,
remember
Mox actually looked
watching
concerned.
this guy. I didn't want this guy. I may
Yeah.
have bitten off more than I can chew. So this goes into the storyline of him taking out each Death Rider one by one,
Hmm.
so as to make sure that he gets Mox alone. I imagine that the final piece of the puzzle will probably be setting up a match between Willow and Shafir, or at least getting them involved, so, or having Willow attend. Maybe Edge doesn't want to go that far and take out Shafir himself, but is willing to bring Willow down to the ring for the match to equalize her or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't imagine that the Willow stuff from the last couple of weeks is there for filler.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
figure she's gonna factor into the equation here in the world title match in some fashion.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yep. Uh, Vendetta has a vendetta against Harley Cameron. Uh, Next week we get Harley Cameron versus the other half of that faction, Deonna Purrazzo. And if you remember, they didn't bring it up here, but if you remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a segment where uh Deanna was in like somewhere in the arena, and Taya Valkyrie comes out, and she's been looking all over for her, and she's in a tizzy, and she looking for Deanna, and Deanna says, something's missing. We formed this group, but haven't really been successful, and I think it's because we're not complete yet. So there's still a piece of the puzzle missing, and then they walked off. I think this is probably where they debut whoever that is going to be. Um, I don't know who it could be. It could be somebody from the roster. It could be a new signee. I've heard rumors that it could be. Oh gosh, what's her face? she just ended with TNA, and I can't remember her name. Oh crap! It's gonna bug me if I don't find out. But mm, Giselle Shaw. Giselle Shaw was
Yeah.
the one that was being batted around as a possible. I don't really know if there's any. I know they were all. I know that she was in TNA when Deanna was in TNA, but I don't know if she was there as well as Taya. I don't know if that overlapped or not. So I know that she probably has some history with Deanna, but I don't know if she has any history with Taya.
Yeah.
But that's just a rumor. I don't know. Nothing has been made about her signing since she let her contract run out with TNA. So I don't know. Maybe the internet's wrong. It often is. So uh, Max Caster comes out for his open challenge and gets obliterated by Brody King.
Oh man, this was great.
Match rating, nothing. It doesn't matter. It's a squash match.
It was
Brody
great.
King. The match rating is it made Adam happy to see Max Caster get destroyed by Brody King. That's the match rating.
Yeah.
Hurt Syndicate, they stumble upon the Outrunners in the backstage.
Love this.
And Outrunners are like, hey, we're a real team. So how about we challenge the Murder Machines? But it doesn't work just that if the Murder Machines win, they get to face you. What if we win? Do we get to face you? And MVP is like, do it and we can talk. Like,
It's like good news and bad news. Good
yeah, good
news,
news
if
and
you
bad news.
win, you get a match with
you
the
get a
Hurt
shot.
Syndicate.
If you lose, you get a shot.
You
Or
get a
if you
shot.
win, you get a shot at the
Yeah.
Hurt Syndicate.
If you
Yeah,
win,
it
you
was
get a
good
shot at
stuff.
us, and if you lose, you get a shot at us. Good news and bad news, and that I loved it. I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved this whole thing. I really love the Outrunners, man. Like
Yeah, me too.
I need more segments with them. They're just so fun.
They really are. Like it's I feel like they haven't been on TV as often as they could be. But I mean everybody's fighting for TV time. Like everybody. This roster is so stacked. It's kind of a problem actually.
Yeah.
um if they what I would say is if they had an actual TV deal for ROH, like move like a full third of the roster to ROH and stack that and make it like a legitimate promotion instead of just like, oh, we have nothing to do with for these people, because it just seems preliminary,
Yeah.
you know, like even with Jericho at the top, like Jericho right now is not the Jericho that was the initial AEW World Champion.
Mm.
So
Nope.
it's like he still has name value. Like if they're still shopping around for a network for ROH, it's not a terrible marketing idea to have go with the biggest name that you can, but it's still like it doesn't it's not indicative of what's on the rest of the roster. And most of that is like the people, it's like NXT but not as good as NXT with
Yeah.
the exception of Athena.
Yeah.
Athena is a
Yeah. She's
goddess
really good.
and she can do no wrong, is our forever champ, and she needs to be called up if anything.
Yeah, I
But
figured they would have already done that by now. But I mean, really, she would fit right into the world title picture, and there's something going on there. We can't really.
well, she's from Houston, so there's always the chance that they call her up in advance of All In.
Yeah.
I mean, she would have to drop the belt first, most likely. But like, can you imagine? I mean, there's money in Athena in a high profile title match, whether it's for the TBS title or the World Women's title, doesn't matter. Having her against whoever's the champion at that point would definitely draw in her hometown.
Yeah.
So, you know, main event of the night was the Ring of Honor World Championship match. Speaking of Chris Jericho, as he defends against Bandito, I fell asleep during this match because I was very, very tired. Not because it was boring, because I was very,
That
very
was very
tired.
good.
So I had to go back and rewatch this match. I'm glad I did. It was pretty good. I mean, Jericho in his age is trying to adapt his style in a company where everybody is just like super athletic and just kind of running rings around him. And, he's doing the best he can.
Yeah.
He's really, really laying in those chops. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him lay in so many chops. Well, no, that's not true. That one match with Stone Pitbull, he
Yeah.
that
was a
was the
good
most
part.
chops I think I've seen anybody throw. But besides that, he's just leaning so heavily on the chops as part of his offense now. It's just, I know it's a way to compensate for his more limited, not entirely limited, but more limited mobility, and he still has a bit of a gas tank for somebody his age, but
Yeah.
his age is showing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I was kind of annoyed at the finish, because he won clean. Like,
I actually really like that 21 plex into a reversal like thing that they
yeah,
did
I
because
like that spot, but I don't like it on the heel that everybody hates.
I think what
Like,
we're going to
the
see here
whole
is
match was like him not being able to catch up with Bandito. Like, he should have at least held the ropes or something while he did it, and just not have the referee catch it. Like, I feel like there should have been cheating involved.
that could have actually been the intention, but they landed a little far, and he couldn't just reach out and grab him, And
Yeah,
Bandito knowing that that's the finish, he ain't gonna kick, so we're done either way.
right.
But now, see what we might see here though is like a tale of three matches in three moves, because we first match ends by 21 plex, second match ends when the 21 plex is then reversed. So third match, I think Bandito goes over and wins the ROH World Championship, and they end it by 21 plex into that roll up. How is Bandito going to come out of that roll up and
Yeah.
maybe continue keep rolling
That's
and
a very
continue the
Jericho
move?
way of looking at it too.
It
Like,
is. That's
that's
something
the
he would
kind of
do.
stuff that he thinks about very heavily.
Yeah. So I think maybe we'll see something like that, but I also think that Bandito's going over in the third match because there's going to be a rubber. They've had two. There's going to be a third. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it. At least I
So,
hope.
I mean,
I really like Bandito, so I hope he gives
yeah,
him
I
the
like
title,
Bandito. I just
even if it's that one.
It's tough because he's a legitimate former ROH World Champion. As he wasn't the final, but he was kind of the final legitimate Ring of Honor World Champion
Mm-hmm.
before it got bought out by TK and became just kind of a subsidiary of AEW instead of its own thing.
Yeah.
So, like, the kind of the final of the original era. Um that being said, like, in on this roster that is so stacked with names that people are far more familiar with than Bandito. Like when he dropped it to Claudio, I thought that was great. I thought that was good that it gave Claudio the world title that he had been missing from his resume, two of them in fact. Because they were the Jericho reign was sandwiched in between two Claudios.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, you know, going from Claudio to Jericho to Claudio to Kingston to Mark Briscoe,
Mm-hmm.
and then going to Jericho and then going to Bandito. There's like a steady progression, and then there's a little bit of a dip, and that's not a diss at Bandito, who I think is incredibly talented, but in terms of star power and people who kind of, if you're wanting to prop this up as a second world title instead of a minor league title, then going from Jericho to Bandito is like, it's kind of it could be seen by a lot of people as a step down.
Yeah. It
for
could
the
be.
belt as opposed to a step up for Bandito. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I like Bandito, but maybe like he just came back. Maybe he could have benefited from a little bit more build up first
Yeah.
before he wins it. You know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
not, like I mean, you've got like I said, if it was up to me, I'd move like a third. You know, if that you get that TV deal, I would move a third of that roster, including some of the main eventers that you don't have anything better to do with, and then just have them help establish the brand
Yeah.
and have it not be all on one guy's shoulders, one
Yeah.
guy that people don't really even want to see. So
Yeah. And you were still getting please retire chance. So
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it is what it
that
is.
all having been said, this was overall another great episode of Collision.
Yeah, it
Like
was good.
just this, they've been really hitting it. You know, they've gone from strength to strength over the past several, like 4 weeks now, something like that. So like this is we're getting some momentum. We're getting on a roll here in AEW, and I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's my conditioning as a wrestling fan. But yeah, I'm really enjoying what they've been serving. So, call you know, call me a happy wrestling fan
Yeah.
because I am.
Yeah, this show definitely picked up a bad week for me a bad Friday. Like I had a bad Friday and then the Saturday show was really good. So
Yeah.
yep.
All right. Well, that covers that.
Yeah.
So, without further ado,
We're gonna do what the
that's
pros
me
do.
rubbing my hands together. I don't know if you can get that on the microphone. I don't know if you can tell. That's me eagerly rubbing my hands together because we have a fantastic, fun time to share with you in our final segment. So, Aaron, what are we about to do?
We're gonna do like the pros do. We're gonna call it in the ring, and this time we're gonna call it in the ring with Mr. Gatt.
All right, so this is our Calling in the Ring segment. And for the very, very first time, I'm so excited for this. We have a guest here to tell some stories, here to reminisce, here to hopefully have a few laughs because honestly, some of the wrestling this week was a little on the depressing side.
Yeah.
We have my friend, the Trash Man, the Lebanese Rider, George Gatton.
Hey, thank you for having me, gentlemen. Looking forward to it.
Of course, sir. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you sharing some time with us, giving some stories. I've known George for, gosh,
Oh, probably 20 years.
almost maybe,
Yeah,
probably
almost.
closer to like 16, maybe
Oh, yeah,
18, something like that. I knew your
yeah.
sister because your sister and I were in the same graduating class.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
But I met you through Ben through, of course, that great thing that we all love, professional wrestling.
Of course.
We would all get together, our group of friends, and we would watch WWE pay-per-views every month, and it was a really, really good time. I think it's a testament to how small the world is that like I didn't really know you in high school. You were what? I think there's 3 years between us.
No,
I
two.
think two, something like that. So we very easily could have crossed paths in high school, but we just, for whatever reason, didn't. And then after college, it just circles back around. That's happened a couple of times in my life, and it's usually for the better, and it's definitely for the better in this case, George.
Thank you, man. Likewise. We all love wrestling. I'm a fan first and foremost. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, like I wanted you to come. Pardon me. I wanted you to come on because I know, you have actually lived the dream a little bit. Everybody who watches wrestling at some point or another, if they're of a certain age, they've at least toyed with the idea of getting in the ring, of testing it out. And I never got that far. I was never athletic. I was never confident enough to do it. And now I'm a 40-year-old man with a dad bod. And Still no athletic ability. So like my window has well and truly passed. I got my rocks off. I got my kicks from e-fetting. That was enough for me.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's where I met this guy. That's where I met Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been one of my longest friendships in my entire life. May have been a little in and out there in terms of communication. I'm horrible at communicating. I'm sorry for literally everybody who I've lost contact with, only to show up in their lives like 3 years later. Hey, how you doing? But but it's still been continuously for almost 20 years, and it's all because of professional wrestling. Now, George, you've actually done it, to a degree that even Aaron hasn't done, because you were doing it pretty consistently for about 4 years?
I had I don't know, consistently probably about 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, then kind of on and off.
Do you want to tell the people your story, or at least a condensed version of it? Because I know there's just a lot.
So around the time I was 18, I started going to indie wrestling shows in person. Adam and I are from upstate New York, or I guess central New York, we'll call it. About 3.5 hours from Philly. And Philly, of course, is a pretty notorious pro wrestling city, hotbed, whatever you want to call it. I got into the indies probably in around 2003, 2004. So when I started watching everything on DVD, the main players at the time were Ring of Honor, and then there was Combat Zone Wrestling, CZW. CZW ran Philly at least once a month, every month. So December of 2006, I want to say, just right before I turned 19. First indie show, Cage of Death 8. Cage of Death being CZW's biggest shows of the year, right? It's their WrestleMania, we'll call it. I was always of the opinion that I was probably too small to wrestle. And then in the opening match, I saw a guy who was about, 100 pounds soaking wet. And I was like, oh, maybe I could feasibly do this. Fun fact about who that guy turned out to be. He's on TV on Wednesdays. He does a 6:30. His name is Ricochet. The Ricochet you guys see on TV now is not the Ricochet I first saw at this show. He had like long hair. He had an 8-pack. That dude always had he was always shredded as far as like abs go. But I want to try and find a picture so I could just drop it in the chat for reference. But yeah, who else was in that match? Chuck Taylor was in it. I know that. Evil Uno, he was Player Uno back then, was in it. Adam, I don't know if you remember Beef Wellington.
Oh, the ass punch. Yeah. Love the ass punch.
Yeah, the ass punch. So that was the opening match, and I was like, oh man, okay, maybe I'm not too small. So I had the time of my life that show. At the time, my favorite wrestler was the Necro Butcher, and I had never gotten to see Necro Butcher live, and I saw him and Drake Younger, former WWE ref Drake Wirtz, have a crazy death match, and I was like, okay, all right. Hardcore wrestling might get a little bit of a bad rap, but this is really fun to watch. So I had the time of my life at that show. And then I think my next one was 2 months later, and then 2 months after that. And then from there out, it was just monthly. I've probably, as a fan, been to, I'd say, north of 500 shows, not just CZW, not just indies even. We'll include, WWE and AEW. Man, as far as the main players in the States go, I don't think that there's a Fed that I haven't gotten to experience live, which I'm really grateful for. Especially like 06, 07 indies. you look at them then, and then you look at what's on TV now, and I got to see people before they were famous, and it's really fucking cool, guys.
That's the best part of the indies, in
Yeah.
my opinion, is being able to see guys who came through your local, your hometown, and then a couple of years later, see them get signed somewhere and do big things elsewhere. It makes you feel as a fan like you got in on the ground floor. It's very, very indie, very punk,
Yeah, I love it.
Like that Supercard of Honor we went to, Adam.
Oh
like
my god!
Everybody on the card,
incredible.
if they weren't already a legend on that card, they now either work for AEW or WWE.
Wait, Aaron, were you at the one in Houston?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was there too.
Okay. Was he with the group of friends that we dropped you off with there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah. So,
there you go. Small world. We may have
real small world.
then, man.
Yeah, we may have met before. Yeah.
Very, very briefly, most likely.
All right. Can we talk about that show real quick? If you guys
absolutely.
You can talk about whatever you want.
One of my absolute favorite moments of any show I've ever been to happened at that show. They were doing the Sweet and Sour Invitational. And Bobby Dempsey's in the ring, right?
Is this the one that dressed up like oh god, who is that?
Yes, it is. So
okay,
we're looking at the ring, and I hear this familiar music, and it sounds like, and I look at Ben, Adam and I's friend Ben. I was like, "There's no way. There's no way. There's no way." And Kamala comes walking out. Kamala comes walking out, and Ben and I just scream like kids. We're just like, yeah, yeah, completely and shamelessly marking out. And our other buddy Al had no idea who Kamala was, so he's looking at us like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And I'm like, "That's Kamala, damn it!
You got to try
gimmick battle royal."
Oh man, yeah. Even my wife marked out at that because she was like, "I know who that guy is," like because he's like a lapsed fan. And then I had her watching TV for like 6 or 7 months leading up to WrestleMania, and then we went. And but yeah, she was like, "I remember that guy." Like she was marking out, but then the dude came out dressed up as him.
Yeah, Bobby Dempsey.
Yeah, Bobby Dempsey came out dressed. I was like, "Oh my god, dude, this is." Freaking amazing because they're just like standing across the ring from each other, slapping their bellies and grunting at each other. Like, oh man, it was great.
Yeah, one of my favorite matches from 09 was on that card. Davey Richards versus Kenta.
Yes.
Man.
That match was my favorite indie match for a very, very, very long time.
I pull up the card, man, and there's some stuff I just straight up forgot happened.
Oh, dude.
Like Alex Kozlov wrestled Bryan Danielson. That's killer.
Yeah, I completely forgot that happened. So we were looking at the card like a few weeks ago. We were like, "Whoa, dude! Like we really saw all this stuff. Like what?"
Yeah, D'Lo Brown and Colt Cabana. That's another one. Yeah. This card is stacked though.
That Blue Demon match where the top rope broke.
Oh yeah.
And they still had an amazing match.
Yeah, tremendous. Yeah, awesome.
Lots of cool stuff happened there though. Like besides the whole aura at that ROH show was like just top tier. The Rockers. Do you remember the Rockers, Adam?
Yes.
So me and Adam are waiting to get into the building. We're standing outside the building. Maybe we were waiting for one of y'all, or I forget what we were waiting on, but we were standing outside the building, and this minivan screeches to a halt in front of the venue, and the sliding door pops open, and it's these two like Australian dudes dressed up as the Rockers. They're like, "The Rockers are here! No worries!"
Full 1989, it was
ties
fantastic.
around the knees, white ties, like they had little neon ties everywhere in the messed up, and they. Oh my god, they were spitting image of Sean and Marty.
It was really
Oh my god.
That dude's mullet, the blonde mullet was immaculate.
It was immaculate, dude. It was like a Ted DiBiase $1 million mullet, dude. Oh my god, it was amazing. It was amazing.
So that actually reminds me of another story. 2014, Mania 30 was in New Orleans, right? I had never been to New Orleans. So, of course, I wanted to experience Bourbon Street in all its glory. So I enjoyed it, like, kind of responsibly the first time around, right?
Hmm.
Which not really Bourbon Street's rep.
No, not really.
So we attended Mania 30, great show, but the streak ended. Okay.
Yeah.
And when the streak ended, A, everybody in the building was shocked, and B, at least half of us thought that like Taker was going to retire. So we go out after the show. I meet up with my buddy Sal and some of my friends from New York, and we decide, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna drink for the Undertaker. So we start, ripping shots and just cheersing to Mark Calloway, thinking, you know what, one more for Taker, one more, and then we'd have like celebratory drinks because Danielson won the title in the main event. We're like, fuck yeah, this rules. Um, I'm walking down and I see, I think we saw Mojo Rawley, and we're saying hello and whatever, and he's like, hey, why don't you guys meet this guy? And it was Baron Corbin, who hadn't even, I don't even think he had debuted on NXT TV yet. So
At
he
that
was like,
time, no, I don't think so.
yeah, so he was
No,
like,
2014, probably not.
he was freshly signed, right? And Corbin just hung out with my buddy Sal and I. We ended up at a strip club, and this is where it ties in with your rockers experience, right? I didn't have the rockers, but I did have like 1991 Davy Boy Smith. I had Doink the Clown, and I had Demolition sitting stage side. And Corbin, my buddy Sal, and I are just in the back drinking like a bucket of Miller Lite and like ripping shots of Jameson while this is happening. Like, I don't even do drugs. Like, what is happening right now? It was so
I,
good.
I can't imagine that the girls there were very pleased about somebody taking all of the focus off of them like that. How does one pay attention to the dancers when Demolition is sitting right there?
It was so weird, man. And these dudes looked like Axe and Smash, like
Yeah.
just face painted leather daddy or whatever the hell you want to say. It was, oh my god. I remember like I was just so confused because like it was 2014, so it was like probably just before or just around when cosplaying started like taking off.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, holy shit. Um, and I think the same night, this is a little more wholesome, right? Just to take the edge off. We ran into Japanese fans, and we all started like a yes chant, yes, yes, because that was Daniel Bryan's big thing back then. And they start looking at us just going, hi, hi, hi. And we got like
Yeah.
a bunch of different like languages just chanting their own version of yes. And it just warmed my heart.
Oh,
Wrestling's a
that's
fucking,
great.
I swear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wrestling's the
dude.
best.
Yeah, it
Wrestling
is.
can be the worst, but it can also
Oh,
be the
it
freaking
can be the
best.
worst, but it's pretty rad.
Yeah.
I'm fond of it.
Going back to your story though, so how do you go from being this fan to eventually getting in the ring?
Yeah, no worries. So I frequented so many damn shows that I was like one of the people that, the talent recognized from in the crowd, right? And I've always been a nice guy. I don't think I'm a dick. Adam, keep me honest.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're
um,
good. It's only when you're around bad influences that that you take on their
oh
characteristics.
god.
Ben,
Oh,
Yeah.
so in a wrestling
ow.
market,
Yes, 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 yes. Um,
Not Pilling
so
though. Pilling, you're a darling.
not Pilling. Pilling's a darling. Pilling, you're a darling. Alan Benny of questionable morals.
It's true.
So yeah, I'd go to shows from December of '06, and I went at least once a month. I mean, there was a month, I want to say like April 2011. I think I went to like 12 shows that month, 12 pro wrestling shows. So Yeah, I would literally like my weekends, like I would just go to shows, mostly in the Philly area, but like Chikara, I would go to in like other parts of Pennsylvania. Um, I'd try and do as much as I could on Mania weekends too. And I fell in love with indie wrestling specifically at that time because man, WWE and TNA at the time really weren't that great. At least they weren't my cup of tea, we'll call it, right? There's bright spots, and I'm very much of the camp wrestling is subjective. So like
Oh
I
yeah.
don't want to watch something and just shit on it just because I don't like it. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not for me, right? So I fell in love with indie wrestling because there's like every style. There's something for everybody. It's like going to it's like Golden Corral.
Yeah, yeah, I get
It's a
that.
buffet, man. There's something for everybody. So around 2014, I was hating my job in Brooklyn. I was just like, fuck it, no, I can't do this anymore. So I went to a CZW Dojo Wars show, which is like their student shows, right? It's like think of like NXT Level Up or something
Yeah,
similar to that.
it's the kids in the system getting reps.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to I think the third Dojo Wars, and after it let out, I talked to the owner of CZW and then Drew Gulak, and I was just like, guys, I'm ready to train, and they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, you're serious? Come by on Monday, and we'll give you a tryout. And fuck me, guys. It was
How
it
do you
was.
try out somebody who has no experience?
Ooh.
Here's how you try it for school. I mean, it, trying out was essentially them blowing you up and seeing if you would keep persevering and come back, which is what I did. I remember one of the guys came in and he's like, okay, guys, you know what to do. 500 squats. So yeah, the first thing I did at my tryout was 500 Hindu squats. I was in a ton of pain for like 6 days after, but fuck, I was way, way, way too scared to quit. Because like I thought that if I stopped at that moment, I'd never fucking come back, and then I'd never be able to do this. So I kept with it. I totally, totally, totally puked a bunch because it's just how it is. Uh, right? You're gonna get blown up. That was just one part of it. Then there's like, afterwards running the ropes, which how the hell am I supposed to run the ropes when I don't have any leg strength left? Um,
You
you know,
snail the ropes.
yeah. I came back the next day, which is probably not the smartest because my legs were massively in pain. Um, and yeah, there's a different trainer who I met, and um, those were my first bumps. Which, fuck, tuck your chin, tuck your.
Yeah, that
Oh,
makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I don't pretend to know all of the mechanics, but it would make sense to tuck your chin so you're, hitting your back and not the back of your head every
yeah.
time you go down.
I mean, you get a
So
choice. You can tuck your chin, or you can tuck your chin, or you can get a concussion. I mean, that's pretty much
that's
it.
pretty much it. Yeah, and like, I'm happy and I'm lucky that I never like got knocked out from taking a bump or anything, but when you start out, you gotta get your breathing timing down too, because if you're holding your breath and you bump, you're just gonna choke. Which I got the wind knocked out of me 1,000 times until my body was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I was training at CZW's academy for I think 6 months before my first match, which realistically, I I don't think I was ready for my first match. But it was my 27th birthday gift from the trainers. I had a tag match. I actually teamed with Penelope Ford in my very first match.
Oh
Fun fact.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you said she was in that same training class, right?
Oh yeah. Uh, I will say this. I'm so happy for her. I love her to death. She's always been such a great friend to me. And she'll admit this. She wasn't a wrestling fan, right? She didn't grow up a wrestling fan. Um, she had this friend who was and who was training. I think she tore everything in her knee at some point and had to stop. But she brought Penelope Ford to the school, and she's like, that looks like fun. So she signed up for wrestling training. That girl is wildly athletic. It's crazy. She had
Yeah.
core strength like crazy.
I mean, you
Uh,
can tell by the stuff that she does in that ring that that is an
yeah,
athlete.
yeah, man. So they're like, "Yep, it's you and Penelope against two of my buddies I trained with," and she got the pin for us and match one. So from there it was just grind, show up, keep going to training, and then make something of yourself.
Yeah.
That's really what it came down to.
So is there a point where you like quote unquote graduate from a training class like
They
that, or is it just like, okay, here you go out and make your bookings?
well, yeah, yes and no, right? So their graduation was making it to one of their main shows, which I got to do about a year later, and I wrestled the owner of CZW on Cage of Death. So we had a student show that afternoon. It was a doubleheader, right? Student show and then Cage of Death, and I wrestled my buddy in the opening match. I lost, and then there was a battle royal um, with the winner going on to wrestle at the Cage of Death show. And I knew I was supposed to be final two, and my buddy Dan O'Hare, the big scare Dan O'Hare, great name.
That is a great name.
He was set to win the match, right? We had everything worked out where I would hit him with a spinning discus clothesline, right? And he'd go over and hold on, come back in, and then clothesline me out. What he didn't tell me was that they were working men. So I hit him with the clothesline, and then I see him like hit the ground, and I hear the bell ring, and I look at the ref, and I'm just like, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. He's like, yeah, congratulations. I'm like, oh shit. And so I started losing it. Fun fact about the ref, GCW star Jimmy Lloyd.
Ah,
Oh,
No,
wow.
Jimmy Lloyd. Yeah. Yeah, wrestling's a small world. Um,
very.
yeah,
So that's
so
great. I mean, that speaks to you and your personality and your character. That they that's the second thing that you told. The second story that you told of them just giving you nice things just because,
mhm.
like
Yeah,
that
I've always been
that
grateful for it.
yeah, that speaks to how much you impress them and how much you impressed upon them the strength of your character, George. That's
Oh,
really cool.
listen, man, it's cool to be over in wrestling. It's way cooler to be over outside of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always maintained, man. So lucky for me, sometimes they blend together. Yeah, it's important to me not to be a dick ever, really, unless like someone really fucking pushes me. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot, a lot. So yeah, that's it, man.
That's really cool. So how'd you wind up in Austin then?
So I was working for a company in real life, not wrestling, out of northern New Jersey, and I did about a year there, and then I saw they had an opening for a different position out of their Austin office, and I moved to Austin pretty much sight unseen. Um, I got a flight to find an apartment. I was there for like less than 24 hours, so I didn't really get to explore. I just remember, so I landed, my flight was delayed. I landed at like 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday. So yeah, I guess a little over 24 hours, but 24 hours, under 24 hours awake, we'll say. So yeah, I landed about like 2:30 a.m. Then I had to Uber to a hotel, and I didn't know anything about Austin. I rented a car. The only thing I really did other than find a place was eat a bunch of breakfast tacos. And my buddy took me to my first Texas barbecue at the time, which is Rudy's, which I think I still maintain Rudy's is very solid. It's consistent. Um, and yeah, then I just got on a plane and I was like, okay, well, I have no idea if I'm gonna like this place or not, but fuck it. So a month later, I drove down with everything I own in my SUV at the time. And I've been here since August of 2016 with no signs of turning back around. This place is home now, and I'm very grateful for that. I fucking love it here.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
so. I mean, I love the attitude of just betting on yourself.
Hmm.
You
Oh,
know,
it's ballsy.
yeah, more
I
balls than I got. I can tell you that right
I mean
there.
it's fucking terrifying too, but when it works out, it's worth it for sure.
So when you get to Austin,
Mhm.
that's when you get involved in Wrestle Circus, right?
So I get to Austin. Wrestle Circus' first show, I think, was October of 2016. So I get to Austin and I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to wrestle again or wrestle down here. I'm going to try to. I found a school, did some training. Um, and then, yeah, Wrestle Circus, October 2016 was their first show. I recognized Jordan Lennox, who was one of my friends who he used to wrestle for Excite out of New York. So I was like, oh, I know Jordan. Dick Justice was another one. So
Dick
I was like,
Justice.
I'm bringing
Love
Dick
that guy.
Justice in. Fuck yeah. So I hit up Wrestle Circus on social media. I think it was on Twitter at the time. I was like, hey, just letting you know, I live down here, and if you guys need any help whatsoever, I'm more than happy to. So I ended up doing like some airport runs and ring crew, right? Nothing out of the ordinary. So I pick up. I think first time I picked up uh, Dick Justice, EC3, and Ray Rowe, who's now Eric of the War Raiders, right?
Ray, I love Ray.
Yeah, yeah. Ray. I didn't know Ray well at all. Guy was cool as hell to me.
Oh yeah, he was super cool.
Yeah, so I took them to Rudy's as one does because they wanted barbecue and they wanted something where we wouldn't have to wait in line for 3 hours. uh, yeah, and I just helped out as much as I could. I was helping with gimmicks and everything, like merch. And before their November show, the promoter calls me and he's like, "Hey, I was wondering if you want to wrestle on the next show." And I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely." So I got to the building not knowing what I was gonna do, right? And he's like, "Hey, I want you to wrestle EC3 tonight." And I was like, okay. Like I wasn't acting like inquisitive because right, I'm like, this is a
But
fucking
at that point, he was a former TNA world champion, I'm
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure, right?
And he was the first
So,
wrestling champ.
yeah.
So it turns out, so EC3 was actually injured, right? So he,
Mm.
no, he was injured going into this. So there wasn't a whole
Oh.
lot he could do. So the gimmick was open challenge. I walk out. I grab the mic, or he's like, "Whoa, what's your name?" I'm like, "I'm George Gatton." He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "From Vestal, New York," and the crowd's like booing, right? Because
Yeah.
New
It's
York.
because nobody knows what Vestal is, but
And he
everybody
looks
knows
at
what
me,
New York is.
he looks at me and he's like, "Where are you really from?" I said, "I'm from right here in Austin, Texas." Got the cheap pop a la Mick Foley, right?
Mhm.
So he looks at me, he's like, "I'll tell you what, George, why don't you go to the back and find yourself a gimmick and then maybe come back out here?" I was like, "Okay, cool. Sure." So he kicks me to the back. I go to the back and I find like a little metal trash can upstairs in the locker room. and they start playing "Dirty" by Christina Aguilera, and I come out holding this trash can, just screaming like a fucking maniac. And I get in the ring. He's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "I'm the Trash Man." He's like, "Where are you from?" I said, "From right here on Dirty Sixth Street in Austin, Texas." And he's like, "Well, what are your finishing moves?" I said, "I got the Trash Man Stone Cold Stunner. Get the Trash Man Rock Bottom." He's like, "What's your real finisher?" I said, "It's a schoolboy." He's like, "A school." So we have like a 3 to 4 minute match, which is literally just me kind of being snug because I don't know what the fuck like I'm doing in there with him, and I'm just like I'm chopping him, and he's like, "You're stiff." I'm like, I'm sorry." So I gave him like 3, 4 chops, and then the rest of the match was just, I think I gave him 4 stunners where he like massively oversold, and then I did like the Santino Morella false finish from the 2011 Royal Rumble, where he's just like running around, like acting like he just won. And I turn around, he schoolboys me and grabs the trunks, and that was that. So,
What a
so,
pro.
so after that, I figured it was a one-off, but then like I guess on Reddit, people were going crazy for it. They're like, "You got to bring back the Trash Man." So they called me the next month and they're like, "Hey, we want Trash Man on the show. Is that cool?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to. I'd be honored." So at that point, so the main event of that show was EC3 versus Penta, right? And Penta was just blowing up in the States. I remember when I met Penta, he barely spoke English. Like we I took Spanish in school, so like I knew a little bit to help like bridge that gap, but not much. So they're having a match and EC3 is a heel, right? So he's just like, "I'm gonna send out the Trash Man." So
Hmm.
I go out first, and then um, EC3 kind of cuts me off and gets in the ring, right? And they wanted me to turn heel that night. So I hit Penta with a trash can in the head. And then I turn around just to like jaw jack with the crowd, and I turn back around, and he's standing up and right back to me. And then broke my arm on my 29th day. His old like gimmick.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you'd call it. Um, so yeah, I did the trash man thing. I think I had a blow off match in April with Jordan Lennox because I kept interrupting his shit. We had a hardcore match. Um, it was super easy, super fun. I We knew each other quite well. It was just old school, like I don't know, like Memphis style brawling almost there.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And then we hear Sabu's music, and out comes Leva Bates, who was doing the blue pants gimmick at the time. She was Sab
Yeah.
Blue.
Sap Blue.
Yeah. She gave me
I love it.
gave me like the Arabian face buster with the chair and shit. And then Jordan gave me a 5-star frog splash with a trash can on my chest. Uh, yeah, not to pull the curtain back. Oh, hold on. What's the line on kayfabe here before I go too crazy?
Oh,
We don't.
everything's
Yeah,
All right,
we
cool,
know what
cool.
it is.
All right,
everything's great.
yeah, yeah. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so that looked fucking brutal. He gave me a 5-star frog splash, caved in the trash can. I felt nothing. I get to the
Huh.
back, I'm like, "How are your ribs?" He's like, "I felt nothing." I was like, "Fuck yeah, making magic." it
That's the best case scenario, I would
Yeah.
think.
was delightful. It's delightful.
That's
Yeah.
great. Now, I know that you have a little bit of a couple of claims to fame. One of them being a victory over a former, uh, well, two people. One of them is a current AEW champion, and the other is a former AEW world champion. Would you
Yeah,
like to talk about that?
yeah, we could. Hold on, I gotta pull this up real quick. I'm kind of out of the loop on AEW, so I'm just seeing who the current champs are.
He's a trios champion.
That's the current champions in AEW.
I mean, I bet I could guess which one of the trios champions it is.
Yeah,
That's fair. Yeah, like Yuta and MJF.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
MJF, really?
Yeah, yes, sir.
This
So
man beat MJF. I want to hear the story.
well, let's start with Yuta.
Start with Utes, yeah.
I wrestled Yuta in a 8-man tag in Dayton, Ohio. I think November 1st, 2015. I'm gonna pull up the card just so I could tell you who was in the match. Yeah, Dayton, Ohio. Yeah. So I got the pin for our team, and I happened to pin a kid named Alex Kai, who a month later changed his name to Wheeler Yuta. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was a 6-man tag. See, I'm an old man, so pardon my brain sometimes. Yeah, Yuta's another one of those guys where when he started training with us, because he was from like, I think he was from South Carolina, and then he moved to Philly to go to school. When he's one of those guys, like you just know when people are going to be like massive stars, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember him inventing this crazy, like it was literally the first time I saw this move ever happen. I can't even describe it. It was like a standing scorpion deathlock pulled forward into some sort of driver.
Oh,
I
what?
I can't even.
How does that even work?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I still don't know, to be honest with you. Like we saw him do that at the school, and I'm just like, oh shit. So yeah, I got the pin. I pinned Wheeler or Alex Kai, now Wheeler Yuta. MJF, I actually teamed with him and Bear Bronson, who from former tag team in AEW. I'm hoping he gets a nice solo run.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were Pete Lightning and Hoos Blazer, business casual.
Business casual.
And so they would come out and just yell, "Biz Cash, baby!" And yeah, I became affiliated with them at Dojo Wars. I remember like I was returning. I needed a couple weeks off because like I was just hurting, and they're like, "Hey, HR is letting this guy back. Just want to let you know." And I walk out, and I'm wearing MJF's like Burberry scarf, which I didn't think would still be like a massive thing these days, but clearly it is. Yeah, MJF is like Yuta is one that you just saw and you kind of knew right away. Like, okay, this fuck, like, yep, he's gonna get signed. So yeah, I teamed with them a fair amount, and then the victory. I don't know. I don't think I pinned him. I think I think my partner actually I think pinned his partner. And my partner was Joe Gacy, who's in the Wyatt Six now, that's my boy. He helped train me too.
Yeah, I remember a lot of Excite shows where Joe Gacy was around. I was always impressed with that guy. That guy can move for somebody with his build.
Yeah, it was great, man. I'm very lucky because I got to do a lot of cool shit, and it's never going to be lost on me because, like I said, this I think before we started recording. I'm a fan first and foremost, man. Like,
Yeah.
nothing bothers me more than people in wrestling acting like they don't like wrestling. It's like, shut the fuck up, guys. Why did you get into this? It sure as fuck wasn't for the money. Okay.
No.
No, not at all. Oh God.
Well, if it was for the money, then
Like,
they had
guys, we all want to be fucking fans. Let's just be fans. Okay. It's okay to be a fucking fan. Yeah. So yeah,
maybe that leads into.
I had a big fight with my own territory about that at one point because I think it was like I just started working security on my way up through the training. Like, I'm training and I'm working security at shows, and you tell them, like, I got everybody on Facebook by that point. So I'm like, so I can't quit because I'll never hear the end of it if I do, and, but then, like there'll be an episode of Raw that comes on. I happen to catch Raw and it's not very good. And I'm like, man, this is crap. Like, what is going on up there? Like, I feel like our shows are more entertaining. You can't say that. You don't need to talk like that and pull behind the curtain and show people what's going on back here. I'm like, I'm not showing them what's going on back here. I'm a wrestling fan. Like, everybody knows I'm training to be a wrestler and I'm a fan. And so if I think Raw sucked, I'm going to say it.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, you can't do that when you're in the business. I'm like, nah, that's crap. Come on,
that's bullshit.
guys.
I agree. I agree with you, man. Like, we all got into this for the reason that we are fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to admit that you're a fan. It's not a sign of weakness. It's none of that shit. Like, it's fuck, dude. Wrestling rules. When wrestling's good, there's nothing fucking better.
Yeah.
No.
The best thing, I know that he's been canceled, but I think Max Landis really actually kind of hit the nail on the head when he did his Wrestling Isn't Wrestling video from several years back, like 13 years back, something like that. And it was like, when wrestling, I'm going to paraphrase, I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but it's like, when wrestling is bad, it's bad. But when wrestling is good, it's some of the best stuff. Like, it just hits all of those right emotional notes that get you invested and elicit those kinds of positive, excited emotions from that you can't really get from a lot of other places. Sports comes close. Sports comes close depending on how passionate you are as a team and what the situation is. But
sports don't have the theatric element that wrestling does. Sports entertainment, as it were.
I remember when they expanded the NHL a couple years ago, and Tracy. Tracy's a big hockey fan. I am not. I don't really care for it. Like, if I go to a game in person, that's always way more fun than watching it on TV. But for the most part, I find it's kind of boring. But I remember when they expanded the league, and we were over at her dad's house, and we were watching the Cup. It was the second game, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights were hosting their first game of the series. And they come out with this big, literal, like, it was like medieval times. They had a huge, like, medieval, like, show and stuff like that right there on the ice. I'm like, if they did more stuff like this in hockey, I would watch.
Yeah.
Like, I know it has nothing to do with the actual sport, but this is the stuff I like. This is the theatrics, the show. Give me a show. Like, that's the stuff I like.
John Moxley said it best in one of his, I think it was the shoot interview before he got signed. He's like, people take it too seriously. We're just a bunch of grown men rolling around in our underwear, grunting strange noises. It's like, you got a point, man.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. It's true.
Yep.
It's pretty inherently gay on that same note. And people need to kind of be okay with that.
I don't
be okay with it.
I don't necessarily agree that it's inherently gay, but I will say that if you're a homophobe in the wrestling business, then what the fuck, guys?
Yeah.
Because like, I get why I get the inherently gay comment, and like, I understand it. But speaking for myself in the matches I had, I really just got my ass kicked a bunch. There's nothing said.
I want to clarify. I didn't mean that disparagingly.
Oh no,
I meant to bring that up as like, it's a little gay. Get over it. Like, it's a bunch of half-naked dudes.
I get it.
Feeling each other up. Like, kind of gay, guys.
Fucking wrestling. Wrestling rules.
It does. But yeah, you can't be like a homophobe in wrestling. Or you can be, but I mean, good luck operating on any level of comfortability, any at all, because you're not. I mean, if you're not in WWE, and even then, unless you're at a certain level, there's probably no such thing as privacy in their locker room either.
I can't imagine so.
'Cause we sure as hell don't have it on the indies. So like, the girls might be lucky to get like the promoter's office to change in,
Mhm.
while he's like outside having a smoke or something.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh,
not the boys.
I've literally changed in the back of like a detached like cargo trailer because there wasn't a locker room at a venue. Shit was freezing. There's like space heaters, but yeah, it's whatever it takes sometimes, man. There's not a lot of fucking privacy there.
Yeah, we had let's see, at the last show that I worked in Colorado, we worked at like this outdoor venue.
Mhm.
Or it was like an arcade bar type place, but it had like this big outdoor section with seating and stuff. And I have no idea what they were doing there initially, but we put a wrestling ring in it and had a show. And
Nice.
our locker room was I'm pretty sure the corral where the dumpsters were at one point. And because it was the only place anywhere near where we had the ring that had four walls that could be hidden from the public. So yeah, we got dressed like there weren't dumpsters in it when I was in there, but I'm pretty sure that's what was there. At
Yeah.
one point. So
Where did you?
yeah,
What fed did you work for in Colorado?
that was Renegade Championship Wrestling.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because one of my buddies wrestled out there. I think last year. I don't remember who it was for.
Uh, what's his name?
His name's Jimmy Lyon, Jimmy Chondo Lyon.
Okay, I am familiar with him. I'm pretty sure, but I don't think
Yeah,
he ran the show.
he's a East Coast primarily deathmatch guy. Trying to think what the
Yeah.
bed was.
There's a lot. The Primos has like a deathmatch tournament every
I think
year
it was
out there.
that's what it was. It was
So he might be. Yeah, I've ref for Primos on the deathmatch
yeah,
tournament like one time, and
that's what it was. Yeah.
sometimes it's really awesome, and sometimes it is beyond CZW levels of uncomfortable what's happening. So I'm just like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
man,
I could fully understand that, man.
yeah. Like I
Especially
like,
reffing those.
yeah, I have a love hate relationship with death matches, just because like there's a line for me, and I don't know where it is.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. Like I don't know if I'm uncomfortable with something until I see somebody do it.
Yeah.
Like taking a power saw to somebody's
Yeah.
forehead. Like
Yeah,
once you get to that point, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no.
Yeah, I
Actually,
have to.
yeah, I
I
saw
have to
someone
be
take
prepared for it,
yeah,
and I can only usually handle like one at a time.
I
Yeah.
saw was it a guy brain damage? He
Mm.
took a power saw to John Moxley at Tournament of Death.
That is exactly the incident that was in my head when I said that.
Oh,
That's
okay.
exactly the one I mean. When John Moxley got the power,
Yeah.
the sawzall, the big orange
Mhm.
sawzall or whatever, and he just turned it on his forehead. Like, oh, bruh.
I was
Like,
there, man. That
mm.
fuck, that's a day to talk about. That.
Oh.
Uh, so I'm gonna. Can I? You
Yeah,
mind if
go ahead, dude. Yeah, we're freeform here. So go ahead.
All right. So that was Tournament of Death 8, Townsend, Delaware. Um, that was the show where Nick Gage almost died, or I think
Oh.
technically did die.
Yeah, I think he did actually die.
With the this is
It was with he got it in the
Yeah.
neck, right?
in Mox's book. Yeah,
It wasn't the neck; it was like the torso. But
Oh,
it
it
was
was the one. Okay, yeah, because he
it
did
was
take
the
it.
skinny tubes.
This wasn't the one out in the field, was it?
It was, yeah.
Oh, it was one of the field ones. Okay, yeah. So these are like basically illegal shows.
Yeah, it's straight up. It's a death match tournament, straight up in like its purest form. So he was in the finals, and it was a 200 light tube death match, right? And for those,
Yeah.
the tubes are vertical in between the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
So he got shit canned through the ropes, just like he was powdering to the outside, and he hit like the thicker bulbs that you're not supposed to use in a death match,
Oh.
and it pretty much gutted him, and he started like bleeding out. They had to medevac him out. Like it was terrifying.
Okay, yeah.
Fucking,
Yeah.
it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life, man. I've seen some shit at wrestling, like, but that was just like, holy fuck, did I just witness someone die? So, when that happened, it was extremely. The mood got everything got sucked out of the air, and it was very somber, as one would imagine. So he gets blown away, and we clean up, and a couple of us decide to go to Waffle House because we're in bumblefuck Delaware, and we got to get back to New Jersey where most of them live. So we get to Waffle House, and I'm with what's Chrissy Rivera, it was Sammy Callahan, John Moxley, and then this guy Thumbtack Jack, who was a deathmatch guy from Germany. TJ didn't give a fuck, right? Because he wasn't from the States, so he didn't care how he looked walking in. TJ did not shower after 3 rounds of deathmatch wrestling. So he shows up. He's standing next to me at Waffle House. Moxley's literally bleeding on my cargo shorts from like a tube to the leg or some shit. And TJ's just sitting there. His face is like just brightly, like fadedly dyed red from all the blood he lost. And he literally has specks of broken glass all over him. And the waitresses think like he murdered somebody, as one would. Remove yourself from wrestling for a second. If someone walks into your restaurant looking like that, you're going to be like, what the fuck happened? So he covered. He's like, no, this isn't real. We came from a horror convention. What was that movie we saw, Georgie boy? I said, Deathstock. He's like, yes, Deathstock. It's very good. Fucking A, dude. It was wrestling has such random fucking moments. I don't know how else to say it. Truly.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. I've definitely gone to a bar or two after a show where guys are, just they've still got, the cut on their forehead just got like athletic tape over it, and they're just bleeding all over themselves. Still, they're like, we're going to the bar. And I'm like, do you need another beer?
Hey, you know what? They're cheap though. They're cheap date at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Less blood equals a higher content of alcohol to get you drunk.
Some of these guys got a death wish, man. Like you start to think,
yes.
Like when you look at yes. I've been in a situation, not maybe not that extreme where the guy did like 3 rounds of death match beforehand, but I've been in situations where I've gone out with the guys afterwards, and it's like, do you care about yourself at all?
That's the thing, man. Like, I love deathmatch wrestling. I think it's an awesome art form. And it's one of my favorite. Hardcore is one of my favorite styles of wrestling to watch. But I need to have that compelling reason as to why the fuck you're doing this. Like, if you're going out and just maiming yourself just for shits and giggles, I'm not going to care about it. It's kind of like, I'm in the minority here, especially Adam. I know you're going to disagree with me, and that's fine. AEW is largely not for me. And I think a big reason for that is like I respect the athleticism to a high level, but more times than not, it's just kind of there. And that's how I feel about like bad death matches. Like if you're gonna go out there and just cut yourself and just show like, oh, look how fucking crazy I am. I could go through this, and this. It's like, no, give me a fucking reason. Just give me a fucking reason.
Even if it's just, hey, you seem like a nice guy and I don't want you to suffer.
Pretty much it.
That simple.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like I like have a line where I get uncomfortable with death matches and hardcore wrestling at certain points, but it's like pretty extreme. Like you have to be pretty gnarly for me to get there. But like I also kind of have a line on the other way where I'm like, okay, y'all did this match and it didn't deliver what you said it was going to deliver. Like, and I don't like, I'm not trying to downride on AEW, but it's just the last time I saw something like this. But when they had that exploding ring death match and I just felt sorry for Eddie Kingston afterwards.
Me too.
Yeah. Like, God.
I was like, man, come on. Like, if y'all are going to go through the trouble of making this motherfucker explode, make it explode, please.
Yeah.
And
I mean, to their credit, they tried to, they just were silly and didn't rehearse it. If they had rehearsed it, they probably could have seen, oh, this isn't going to work. What do we need to do to fix it?
Yeah.
And then fixed it. But they didn't do that. They just assumed it was going to work the way it was supposed to the first time through. But they've learned their lesson. They haven't done it since.
And I hope unless they're going to really do, like, honestly though, just leave that stuff to FMW, guys. Like, just let's leave it where it is. If FMW never does a show again and we never see that stuff again, leave it where it is For God's sake, please, because there is a very fine line between I am having a match to entertain the people and I am trying to murder these people so I don't have to pay them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The funny thing about that match too is that up until the point where the pyro doesn't work, it's a good match.
Yeah, but
Like Mox and
versus
Omega
Eddie.
do a really good job, and then it falls flat due to circumstances beyond any of the performer's control. And it sucked. It sucked so hard.
Mhm.
Man,
Oh,
like
I
that's
felt
the
so
problem.
bad for them because then they had to sell it.
That
Then
last
they had to
moment is
sell it.
so tense,
Mhm.
and it until it explodes, and then the explosion is such a letdown
Yeah.
that what happened before that doesn't matter at all, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed that match up until like it's kind of like a Mercedes match for me. Like the match was freaking amazing when the end happened, and then I was like, oh, I don't like that. Um, and honestly, really, all I did was feel bad for Eddie. I was like, you now have to be like, you saved that guy from something he didn't need to be saved from,
Mhm.
and now you got to
figure
sell it
out a
like he
reason.
died. And I just felt bad for Eddie. That was the first time I caught myself feeling bad for Eddie Kingston.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that kind of may have led to me becoming a fan of his because I wasn't up to that point.
Mhm.
And I was just like, somebody come get drunk Uncle Rico the hell out of here. And then he did that, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for this guy. Because he'll go out, he will obviously go out and do whatever they're asking.
Yeah.
But then now he's.
Well, I mean, he didn't
that.
know that it wasn't going to work.
Oh no, of course
Nobody knew
did.
it wasn't going to work.
But he still has to sell it like he did, and
Yeah.
then I just feel bad for this guy at this point having to do this. And then they started focusing on him more, I guess, to kind of make up for that crap, and it worked. I mean, it made me into an Eddie Kingston fan. Everything after that, so I'll take it. But God, what a way to have to freaking get pity from some of us, like
Yeah. I mean, silver linings though, he did get it,
Mhm.
which is what they were going for, even if it was a crappy way to get there.
That's true. That's true.
Well, George, there's one thing left that I want to talk to you before we end this segment.
Okay.
You did manage to win one championship in your run.
Oh no! You guys don't record the video, right? So I shouldn't.
No. I mean, I know.
The other.
No, you happened to win one championship in your run on the Indies.
Boy, did I!
You want to talk about that?
Yes,
it's a pretty unique one.
That was October 23rd, 2021. I became the Interspecies Wrestling Food Fight Champion.
Now, for those who aren't interested, or not interested, those aren't, let's say, smartened up to what that entails. How does one become the food fight champion, George?
Oh, you gotta win a food fight, and a food fight is like a regular fight, except food is legal. Man, I remember by the end of that match, I had frosting on my chest. I had cake on the bottom of my boots, like in my boots. I was covered in various forms of chips. I had gotten hit in the back with the wiffle ball bat with ramen noodles, just taped off. Dude, Aaron, when I say so, I did a couple death matches in my time. When I say that bat was the fucking loudest thing I've ever heard in a match. Holy shit, dude!
I believe it. They make those to make noise.
Yeah, I got rocked, but no, it was the noodles though that made
the noise.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, good God.
Man.
Yeah. I've been in 3 food fights. I won 2 of them. The first one I was in, oh man. It was one of those instances where anything that could go wrong went wrong. To the point where I was selling on the outside and I saw the guy who was supposed to eliminate me get eliminated.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I was like,
hit me and pin me.
But it was also like a 15-person match, so it's not like you could just like walk and talk with everyone.
Yeah.
That was it was so much fun. It was It was Mania 35 weekend. It was at the venue. I think it was in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is pretty much just New York City at that point.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Right across the river.
That's the show I had to change in that weird cargo trailer. I brought the trash man gimmick out for that, and I remember like as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, "Fuck it, I guess I'm staying on the outside." I just grabbed a bag of potato chips and I popped it. It was just sitting there eating it. And I look at my buddy DJ in the crowd and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go lose now. And I just get in the ring. I got like cannonballed in the corner, pinned. But the food fight that I won the title, it was so much fucking fun.
I remember watching it. Everybody was so stoked when you won.
It was ridiculous. I was, on a hiatus, and the promoter talked me into wrestling, and I was like, dude, I don't want to take a spot from anybody. People work every weekend. I don't want to be that guy who just shows up when he fucking feels like it. And he's like, no, I insist that you're in this, and you have carte blanche. Invite whoever you want to be in the match. And I was like, okay, sure. So it was, I don't know. I think about 10 people in the match were like 10 of my closest friends in pro wrestling. I was just like, you want to do this? It'll be fun, it'll be silly. So I was appreciative of that. I did get stabbed in the throat by a cucumber during that match, and it sucked so fucking bad. I still give Chrissy Rivera shit about that. I'm like, yo, remember that time you hit me in the throat with the cucumber? She's like, oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, it was.
You want to test that theory?
My buddy Eric gave me a European uppercut, and fucking goddamn it hurt so bad. I don't know why. It fucking killed me though. I was like, anything but a European uppercut, Eric. And he's like, yep.
Boom.
Caught me, Claudio style. It's like, shit. Yeah. That was a blast, though. It was a blast. But yes, I am interspecies food fight champion. I think it's probably retired. And if not, then I'm really bad at defending it. Yeah.
You're the longest
reigning
champion ever.
You know why I love the concept of the food fight champion? Aaron and I were talking about this the other week. It really goes to show that wrestling can be literally anything. Like it's such a pliable art form that it's so free. You're only really restricted to your imagination, physics, and the local laws and codes. Really, and everything else is a-okay. Like, I mean, I still want to see a kaiju big battle show at some point.
Oh yeah. So I know the guy who runs kaiju.
Oh really?
Yeah, they actually just ran in Japan, I think.
No way, the promised land.
Yeah, so my buddy trying to think of who he is in kaiju. So my buddy's name is Dan Yost. Dan,
I feel like I know that name.
Dan was a referee. He was a referee for Chikara and for CZW. And then they were also working a gimmick of a mime on our on Dojo Wars. And the mime was Kefka the Quiet, like a mime mask, stripes, whatever, suspenders.
Heel, of course, right? Because everybody hates mimes.
No,
no,
it was a baby face at first. Yeah.
What? That's inconceivable.
Yeah, Dan helps run Kaiju Big Battle now. Yeah, they were in October. It looks like they were in Japan. Most recently, New York City, from what I could see on Cage Match. Yeah, Dan works his Unicorn Party, I think. Yep. Unicorn Party.
As somebody who
I've heard of
grew
that.
up, as somebody who grew up loving, kaiju, Godzilla films, the Suitmation, the whole bit, Godzilla, Gamera, the whole lot. Power Rangers when we were little kids was huge. Like, I love that entire genre. It was one of those things that we had on a couple of our WrestleMania trips. There were opportunities to see Kaiju Big Battel, but we chose like Evolve and stuff like that instead. And it's like, it's still on my bucket list to see that, because it's one of, it combines two of my most this is Mechagodzilla. Right here on my hat, right here. So, I mean, it combines two of my great pop culture loves, and I love the idea of mashing those things together, and you really can't do those mashups in too many other genres, but in wrestling, because wrestling can be anything.
Wrestling is everything. Yeah. Wrestling is also the reason I think everything's a work. Aaron, do you ever have that?
Oh my God, dude! Yes, I have that problem so often. Everything is work, man.
I think
everybody's a liar.
I think everything's a work. Like, it's part of why I typically have a hard time engaging in like political discourse. I'm like, you're being fucking worked.
Oh God, yeah.
These people are playing characters. Almost all of them. I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Stop
it. All these people
it kills me. It kills me, man. It kills me.
I'm surprised politicians haven't picked up fake names at this point, like gimmicks, just because they're not who they are. They're not.
No, hell no.
Well, it doesn't matter if they are who they say they are. What matters is what they get past and what they enforce, and that's very real.
What they're pushing is still. But see, that's the problem. Is like they're working us and affecting our real lives anyway. It's terrible. Yeah. I have that problem too. I think everything's a work. I always feel like I'm getting scammed.
Yeah,
and it's wrestling's freaking fault, man. Because even backstage, you never know when somebody's working. And, it built a level of paranoia in me that I'll never get over.
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah. At least I'm not the only person who's been permanently scarred by wrestling without physical scars.
It's healthy paranoia.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so paranoid. Everybody's a worker. Everybody's selling me something. Everybody's trying to get me to buy a ticket to whatever they're selling. That's all it is.
That's it.
I love it though, because after the wrestling business, I could buy cars and stuff a lot easier. Like when people are like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna do this," I'm like, "Wait a minute now, wait a minute now." Like, you can't work a worker, dog. All right, so we're gonna talk about this.
Pretty much exactly it.
Like, yeah, I'll buy those pinstripes if you buy a ticket to my next show.
There it is.
There it is.
All right. Well, we have loved having you on the show, George.
Oh God, yeah, come back, please, anytime.
Yeah, you're always welcome,
guys. This is a blast.
Yeah, we can tell more stories, or you can come on and join us for a whole episode if you want, and critique the wrestling that you saw that week as well, like we do every week. Door is always open, my man.
I'm going to shoot my shot at MJF, and if I can get MJF on the show, we're bringing George back for the MJF. This is the guy who's got a win over you. Do you remember? Let's get a little business casual.
Oh, he's way too expensive. We can't afford him.
I'm telling you, man, you don't pay for interviews, man. Even in wrestling, you don't pay for interviews. So you ask if they want to do it. If they want to do it and the company says it's okay, they'll do it. So we don't pay for anything. So I am going to, I'm going to shoot my shot at everybody. Roman Reigns get an email from me this week, since this works so well. Like, I'm not playing. Everybody's catching an email from me this week, and I know who your agents are.
It's true. It's true. He does actually know your agents.
I do actually know your
agents. He's got a whole list of them.
Whole list. Probably in my phone already. If you're signed by CAA, your agent's in my Rolodex already. So yeah. So John Cena, expect that email.
I bet we won't see him.
Oh, no. Well, even if he does come on the show, not a chance. It'd just be like an empty box in our video wall.
All right. Well, yeah, maybe next time when you come on, we'll talk about all of our WrestleMania trips.
Oh,
Oh
hell
God,
yeah.
yeah. We could talk about
That would-
WrestleMania 25 in depth about that because that was a week we all shared, and that would be pretty freaking awesome. Because I know me and Adam's perspective of it, but I always like to hear other people's.
All right.
Dude,
Well, if we get your perspectives, Adam, could I bring someone on?
we could bring
Yeah,
Ben.
sure.
You think Ben would do it, or you think like
I think I
Al?
think Ben would get a hoot. I think he'd have a hoot. I think he'd get a real kick out of it.
I know somebody else we could bring on too.
Yeah.
We could bring on Martin. You remember Martin, Adam? The guy whose apartment we went to after WrestleMania?
Yes, and we may have watched 70% of a Wolverine film there.
Yeah. 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 Oh God. That was when Wolverine came out all busted. Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah. We totally
Yeah,
watched
it
that.
hadn't hit theaters yet. It was like 70% done. Like all the CG was like it was like all
Yeah, like
twinkle and
blue
like
lines with like claws here and like handwritten notes.
it was an interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, we could like bring on the whole crew.
our side quests don't align, but they're all great.
The ROH after party, which
Oh yeah,
God, oh,
that was something.
that was
That
was-
something for sure. But
Yeah.
shoot, WrestleMania itself was amazing. We were all sitting in different parts of the arena, so we all probably got completely different like perspectives on like how that all worked out. I mean, like I almost got in a fight with a guy dressed as the Undertaker.
Yeah,
And I had two
I
guys
sat with a
dressed as
guy
old
who's
school
in a better
bodybuilders.
place now.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Wait, was that Mania 25 you saw?
Yeah,
yeah, that was
25.
25. Yeah, because I was a last minute addition, and I was like, oh screw it, I'll go with you guys. And then Aaron decided that he wanted to go, and he was going with his friends, and then each one by one, all of his friends popped off and couldn't do it. So I was the only one left. The guy they never actually met in person was the only one that actually was still committed to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
we
it was
originally
just
had a group of like 10 people that were going to go. We were going to take over like a whole floor of a hotel, and then it ended up just being like me and my wife and Adam
yeah.
and my friends who lived in Houston that were going anyway, but yeah, dude, anytime I want to go on a big wrestling trip, I know I can call Adam because that's probably my best bet. And somebody I know I'll enjoy it with. So,
It
just
was
have
fun.
to fold into y'all's group since y'all seem to actually get it done more often.
Oh yeah. You're more than welcome to.
Oh yeah, that'd be a blast.
Yeah, I haven't gone to WrestleMania since 31 now. 10 years.
Yeah.
I
Jeez
really want to
Louise.
go this year now.
Yeah. I'm going this year, which
The last
is incredibly
pay-per-view.
financially irresponsible of me, but I can't. I just
The
can't.
last pay-per-view I went to was a while ago too. Was Evolution. I was there, and Sardi was there, and I didn't know until after the fact.
Yeah, shit.
And he was like, apparently he was sitting like just a few like rows away and down from me or up from me or something like that. I just didn't see him. It was so funny. But yeah, I get home and a couple of days later, and I'm talking about it on Facebook because I was still on Facebook at the time. And Sardi's like, "What? You were there? Why didn't you say anything?" I'm like, I thought I did.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, thank you again, George, for coming and sharing some time with us, a lot of time with us. In fact,
sure,
this is going to
it
be a
was a
long
blast,
episode,
man.
but it's definitely been worth it. I have a feeling. I hope that every one of our listeners has enjoyed the camaraderie that comes with sharing these personal wrestling stories, because everybody has their own. Everybody has their own stories about wrestling, and most of them are pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
They're fun, man. Wrestling rules.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Wrestling
Yeah,
is such a
wrestling
Wild
does
West
roll.
environment that if you have a memorable story about wrestling, it's probably pretty awesome. I mean, because awesome stuff just happens in
Mhm.
wrestling, like in and around it, like at shows and just like just, I mean, most of my wrestling stories don't even come from like the actual show itself. It comes from like some interaction before, after, or during the show with other people at the show.
Yep.
Then, what's happening in the ring, so it's such an amazing environment. I love wrestling, and I'm so glad that we get to have other people here with us that love it as much as we do.
Yeah. Yay, verily.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Smark Foundation podcast. We thank you for hanging out with us for a few hours and going over the wrestling that happened this week. And one more hearty thank you to George Gatton, who was willing to grace us with his presence this week. And hopefully we can do it again real soon.
I hope so.
Yeah, we'll be doing it soon. We are open for other interviews now. So if any of you guys out there have a specific indie wrestler or mainstream wrestler, or if you got somebody's phone number that you think would be cool on this show, give them a call and give us a post on our B Sky, and we will make contact. I mean, I will literally, if you're part of wrestling, you're welcome here. So, we'll talk to everybody and anybody, and I hope we get to eventually. And I think this was a great start. I really enjoyed having you on, George.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed being on here. I appreciate you guys. Shoot me the invite. I look forward. I would love to run this back.
Heck yeah, we definitely will. We definitely will. So y'all look forward to George Gatton Part 2 coming sometime in the future whenever we all work our stuff out. Coming soon. Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, thanks for everybody for listening this week, and keep your head up out there. We love you. Be safe.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.